recording now.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh,
Okay.
officially now?
Officially.
Okay.
Well, thank you for coming, Les. That's
Yeah,
it.
my pleasure, man. See you later. See you later. That was
Yeah,
like a
okay,
gas.
we
That was
gotta-
a gas.
What's that?
We're going
Going
again.
again.
We're
Going again.
Yeah, that's okay. That's funny. Okay, so well, let's do this intro again.
Hey,
sorry,
hey,
Les.
sorry, man.
Sorry, Les. Yo, hey,
No. Cheers.
we just
Cheers.
so we had a little bit of a hiccup there. We thought we were recording and we weren't. So we're gonna do this again because that's what we do. We go again because we are on Going Again podcast. And our guest today is former firefighter out of Toronto, Les Bryce.
Hey guys, what's happening?
What's going on? All
Nice,
right.
yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Sorry, Les. Let's do this again.
Okay, no problem. Well, it's good that we rehearsed. I mean, that's always good.
yeah,
It's
it
good
is.
to brush up on my bullshit
It
stories.
is.
right?
Thank God it was a small
Oh,
few
yeah.
minutes, but
Oh.
you said a lot. In
Oh, I
those-
did. I certainly did. A lot to say too, and we didn't get into the blood and guts, which is probably best. You know,
Okay.
best
Yeah,
for the
that is good.
Best
That is
for our
good.
customers.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go again with yeah. I mean, you're downtown Toronto. Where you're stationed.
How did it start?
You know, this
How did
kind
it
of
start?
stuff. Yeah. Let's do that.
I went to 26 Hall. It was on the Danforth, and that was my out of the academy. So we did 6. I think we did 6.5 months at the academy. Out of the academy, and that's 1987, by the by. So we get out of the academy, and they post you to a hall for usually 6 to 8 months, and then they would ship you to wherever they sort of desired, wherever there was a shortage or wherever they needed people.
Okay.
And it was a good way to vet you, like they would back in the day. And I say that now because things have changed dramatically in the fire service. Like, let's face it, there's so many new programs, rules, regulations. So back then, they would vet you as you did your probationary firefighter. They would see if you were good, or they liked you, or you were going to be a guy. If you were going to be somebody, then they would move you to certain locations. If they weren't too keen on your habits, they would put you in a place where they could make you keener, and that's kind of how it worked. So out of Bloor Street there, it was at the end of Bloor, so Victoria Park and Danforth, sort of in that area.
Okay.
And it was great. It was a busy area. From there, I went to I did a year there, almost 6 months, 8 months, I think I did there, and then off to 14 Hall, which was Dufferin and DuPont. I spent most of my career there. Between the two trucks, there was 2 trucks. It's a district hall. It was the district chief's hall, so they had the credit union there, and that was kind of great too, because back in the 80s and 90s, they used to pay you with a check, and everybody would come to the credit union. It was kind of a hub of they'd come to the hall and hang out and have coffees and meet, talk to the guys and stuff. So guys off duty would be coming in all the time, and it was a great place to meet and greet and really see a bunch of people in the job. There's smaller halls that don't get that.
Interesting.
There's smaller
Okay.
halls that don't kind of get that coverage.
That's social.
Yeah, and we used to have, like, the doors would be open all the time, and there'd be coming and goings, and yeah, it was awesome. We get to really meet some of the celebrity guys of the day, like some guys that were really notorious or, respected, whatever the case may be. They'd be coming in and be dealing with the credit union, cashing checks, and yeah, it was kind of cool.
Right on.
Andrew and I, we don't live in Toronto,
Yeah.
but we work in Toronto.
Yeah.
And we spend a lot of time downtown.
Yeah.
And I don't know about your hall, but when we're right downtown, there's trucks every day, all day.
Absolutely.
Incredibly busy.
Absolutely. And I don't think that most people don't really get that, and from all the years of being in the game, and when we go out socially, we'd go out as a group of guys, perhaps several firefighters together, and our wives or whatever at the time, or by ourselves socially. And you always got that thing of the stigma is like, oh, you're laying around all day, and
Right.
it's just so hard to swallow, man, because you think to yourself, wow, like this guy here is telling me I'm laying around on a couch all day, and he probably hasn't done a good 40-hour work week in his life. You know what I mean? Like, they have
watch
no
too
clue.
much television.
And they do, and it's portrayed poorly. And I think what happens too is a lot of guys, you romance about, oh, it's just laying on the couch all day, and then you get this glorified thing once in a while, you get out and do your thing. Well, it's far from that, especially in Toronto. Like, I mean, Toronto was was and still is like the busiest place in town, man. There's so many people, so you can well imagine there's catastrophes by the minute. Like, you know, it's just,
It's hard to believe.
yeah. Oh, it is.
We
It's-
don't we live in that life, of course, so
yeah,
we don't know.
You don't know how many responses there is, and you know, if you look on your street, for instance, or you look out the window, you don't see fire trucks every day coming down your street, but they're moving around. Like,
Well, what's
Well, I
interesting?
imagine Toronto.
What's interesting about where we do live,
Yeah.
where we are right now.
yeah,
There's a fire hall across the river.
Yeah.
And we do
Hear it, yeah.
the sirens every day.
yeah, for sure
Yeah,
you do.
yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And a lot of people, it's a fire truck and it's firemen. You're only going to house fires or fires, for instance. That's probably 20% of the business. Like, you know, the business is first aid and every other kind of accident that happens. If you cut your finger off with a chainsaw, we're going. Like, you know what I mean? If you murder your wife, we're there. Like,
And you,
it's
I
what-
imagine if you're first on
we're
site,
first.
then,
In
then
Toronto.
you have to assess that situation.
in Toronto, man. I mean, we were first at every incident.
Yeah.
We were first. Medics are far and few between. They're just the sheer number. We were there well in advance, and that's why Toronto took such a role in firefighting initially in the day, like back in the early 1900s, and that they were firefighters only, and then they took on the medical thing because there was nobody doing emergency medical at the time. So they sort of soaked that in. Every time they'd go, it was one of those things. Well, whatever it is, we'll do it. We'll be demolition guys. We'll be, you know, whatever. We'll dig people out of this and that and the other, or whatever we have to do. And if it's a police matter, well, we were there, so we're, you know, you had a helmet on. Well, if we got to tackle the guy or deal with the police emergency, we're going to do that too. So it was, yeah, traditionally it was kind of we get there before anybody else. The fire department was the guys. Like,
yeah,
you
I'd
know what I
always
mean?
heard that.
Yeah, they're like, we did everything, man. It was ridiculous, you know? And from ridiculous stuff to cats up trees and all those things, they, you know, who do you call?
Classic.
Yeah, you don't call the veterinary association. Like, they
Right.
just 911 and we'd go out and do the thing. We get there. You never know what it is, you know? Never have even if they tell you on the radio or the person who phones 911 says, you know, whatever, the house is on fire. You get there. Well, the house is on fire because the neighbor torched it or the husband torched it. You know what I mean? Like, there's always an element that you don't know about.
So is there a case where you jump into your bunker suits, hop in the truck and go, and you don't know what that's at the end?
You may have a clue, like the 911 operator who takes the call will give you something, perhaps. Sometimes they don't, but you will get something if they've gotten it. They don't make it up, obviously. So if somebody's screaming, the house is on fire, well, of course we're going to a fire call. But there was many times where we get there and you had no idea what it was. It's a gun battle. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't know what to expect. So,
Crazy, man.
And we're running into it. Like, we never sit down the street and stage and wait and watch, you know, take reconnaissance before we go. It was just, let's go, guys.
Well,
Go.
I imagine small towns have their moments and whatnot, just like any other emergency
Absolutely.
personnel.
Absolutely.
But I
Not
imagine
the
being
volume.
downtown Toronto. I mean, you got 20 stories, 50 stories. I mean, I imagine you've done.
Oh,
Yeah.
huge.
How do you equip yourself for a 30-story building?
Well, you can't take near enough stuff up. Like that, you couldn't possibly carry all that stuff up. So you basically have to send in the first guys that get there, take what they can muster, and go up and sort it out. And as you get there, whatever obstacles you achieve on the way, you better be, reporting that to the fellas below and telling them what you need. And it's a communication thing, you know, like we used to have ridiculous rubbish radios. So we'd have guys running back down. You've already ran up. You're running back down to say, forget that. We need more axes, or we need this, or we need, whatever we need.
Hey, Liz, can you bring your mic
yeah.
down a little bit?
I sure can, yeah.
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 Just,
How's
there you
that?
go.
See
Now we can
that
see your face.
face?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Perfect.
the
The scars, the war wounds.
Yeah, exactly. All right, sorry, continue.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Well,
yeah.
this brings me to hiring practices.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing I'm thinking, the moment you said that,
Yeah.
you're humping a hose.
Yeah.
You got a fire extinguisher in the other arm. I don't
Yeah.
know what you're doing.
Right.
Wearing those boots and the bunker suit,
Sure.
and you're tripping up multiple layers of stairs.
Right.
I don't know what the hiring practices are of firefighters, but if it goes in, level with everything else in the world,
Yeah.
there are people applying for these jobs that are not physically suited for these jobs. Does that make sense?
It's amazing and perceptive that you would mention that because honestly, how it happened, let me start historically how it happened. It started historically from guys coming out of the Army, okay?
Sure.
And they went into that profession because
They understood grunt work.
they understood grunt work and they understood the need for help. Like they understood that people need help.
Yeah, they developed that
Right.
in their hearts.
And it's a brotherhood, it's a camaraderie, and it's a compassion. If you talk to, and you have talked to, if you talk to guys that are police, fire, soldiers, Army, military, all that stuff from the war back in the day, those people are so tight with each other and protective. And although they're killing the enemy, they're very protective and nurturing of their own. You know,
Sure.
that's
kind
just
of
how
the game, I
it's a
guess.
protection thing.
Right.
They're not killing people for the want of it. They're killing people to protect the people at home. That was the
100%.
right from the Vikings to today. That's how it goes, and that's the main focus of the fire department as it started. It was caring people, working together for a common goal to sort these people out. So if the department that was already established, they would say, listen, I know a guy, my son, my uncle, my brother, a guy down the street, solid guy, does what he can, helps old ladies, all this kind of stuff. He's got what it takes. He's got the metal. Let's hire him. And that's how it started.
Right.
So your family would get involved, and to this day, there's a lot of brothers, uncles, cousins, and on the job. That's just how it is. Because if you have it, you know when you're sitting at the dinner table, that guy's got it. That one doesn't.
Oh, totally.
It's not
Okay.
unlike the stunt business. I'll say.
Same game like that. You have it in your blood. They understand it. They've lived with it from young.
Yeah.
They know, and you know he's got what it takes.
Absolutely.
I've thrown him around the backyard. We've done the stuff. He's got what it takes. I know he could.
Yep.
I could train him, and he'll be the guy. Plus, there's also that if you let me down, you ultimately have to respond back to me. Like I'm your guarantor that you're going to do the job. So you do a better job. And I find that's the case. You do a way better job because somebody in the room is
Responsible.
is signing your ticket, you know? So, and I think that's how the department started, and it stayed like that for a long time. What happens with that is people on the outside who want in and they don't have a connection, or they don't have the credentials, they can't get vetted to be a part of it. So they feel that's not right. We need to have our chance to get in. And that's fine, as long as you can come up with so we had criteria. We had a training situation, and you had to go in. You'd fill your application in first. They see if they liked you or not. They'd have a look at you physically if you got it. You'd chat with a couple of the chiefs, and they'd go, okay, this kid's smart. He's a sharp cookie, you know. Can he do it? So they'd have a few simulated exercises. You'd lift a ladder up off the ground and put it on hooks, and you'd run up the stairs with a hose on your back. And they go, yeah, he's got it. We can make something out of this. They have other ones, of course, that can't, so you wouldn't get the job. That was fine maybe in the early 90s, 80s and 90s, but as we get into the later 90s, that wasn't going to cut it, right? The city then took on the hiring practice.
Oh, wow.
And when the city took over, of course, it was
The knowledge.
the political correctness,
Affirmative
affirmative action, everybody's a candidate, everybody. Well, it's just the way it works. I'm not slagging anybody in a wheelchair. You can't be a firefighter. It's
difficult.
it's
to go
very
up the stairs
difficult
with a
for
hose.
you to do these
No,
tasks.
Absolutely. We're not slagging anybody.
No.
But what's interesting is that guys become firefighters because it's a calling. And today, and same with the
Kind of like everything.
but same with police.
Right.
When I was a kid,
Yeah.
all the cops were big.
Yeah.
They were tough guys, and it was a calling.
Yeah.
Today, it's go get your teacher's certificate, and because you can't be a teacher, and no slagging on teachers.
Nope.
I'm just picking that as an example.
Yeah.
Because you can't get a job as a teacher, you apply to go to the police college,
Right.
Or to the fire college.
You like the truck. You kind of, that's kind of cool.
They also saw movies where the guy sat around for 7
right.
days.
And say, wow, this is cool. I think I
Yeah.
could do it. I could definitely do it. And I love going out to a place or a social event and you say, I'm a fireman. And it's like, wow, really? And, they're all around you and they're listening to the stories and stuff. It's like, wow, that's cool. So that's a big part of it. And the game is not for everybody. It's honest to God. And even for me, who I was born to be that, when I got to 50 years old, I was like, I'm done. Like 50, if I can squeeze another 5 in, I'm good. I don't want to, it's a young man's sport, you know, like it's not for,
Right.
55-year-old guys should not be running around a fire scene. It is too much, man. You will die. Like, you know what I mean? It's
And if you don't, you may be the result of someone else dying.
Exactly.
So
and your job that you're doing now, you know, you're inhibiting that person's chances of survival because your game isn't on.
100%.
If you think that way.
Yep.
Not everybody, as you said, not everybody thinks that way, right? They're looking at the paycheck and the nice T-shirts and hanging out at the clubs.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
you
the
have nice
calendar. It's
t-shirts.
the calendar.
The calendar too. The calendar, like, you know,
Yeah.
man, that gets a lot of mileage. You get on
yeah.
that thing and wow, like
That's what
superstar,
makes me want to do it.
superstar status.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I just want to be a firefighter for the t-shirts.
Yeah. And I'll tell
Oh,
you,
yeah.
there's nothing like driving that 30-ton toolbox down the street at like breakneck speed, man. That's pretty cool. That is super cool.
I
will
have
say.
no doubt.
That is
Do
pretty
you,
good.
I mean, you must have run into some accident or something like that. It's got to be.
I got clipped on the truck one time. The guy, of course, you're being aggressive when you're driving, but within limits, you know. And we had lots of ability to do that. You know, we had the ability to run red lights if it was feasible to do so. And there,
Sure.
and because of the area, Dufferin and DuPont, you know, putting it to that sort of side of town. The streets are tight. There's parked cars everywhere. It's only 2 lanes, plus you got
Yeah.
parked cars. So now you got 1 lane. If it's busy, you're taking the other lane. Like, I mean, that's just how you're doing it. If
The
it's
frustration level must just
massive.
peak.
massive.
You're the guy behind that wheel. You're blowing that siren.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody's moving.
Nobody's
So,
moving.
and
Yeah.
having said that, I mean, you can't do this job if you don't have some sort of authoritative sort of like, get out of my way sort of thing.
Of course.
You know?
And you can't wait for the opportunities. You're making the opportunities and then suffering the consequences.
Right.
Okay. Like, and that's how the job sort of rolled historically. You made a choice, good or bad, for the better outcome of whatever the situation was. And okay, we damaged a couple of things on the way. We smashed some windows. You know, we drove the truck up somebody's front lawn. Whatever the case may be, we got the job done. Nobody died, and all those people were saved. We didn't lose the whole block of.
And you're saying we've lost that a little bit?
Oh, definitely. For
No
sure.
driving up on front lawns?
That's my
Yeah.
thought. Being a stunt guy, all I want to do is drive that 30-ton toolbox up on somebody's lawn.
Oh, there's nothing. Or the wrong way. Like you go barreling into traffic, and these people are coming at you, and you're just parting the roads, man. It's unbelievable.
Man, yeah,
and terrifying, obviously, for the other people. For
Of course.
I can't imagine that thing rolling up on a Honda Civic head on. Like, I mean, it's just scary big bit, and it's louder than hell.
Yeah, it's making a lot of noise.
Yeah, and there's 4 guys in it, like with their eyes red with fire, and they're screaming and yelling out the windows, like, it's bonkers. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean,
Man, that is crazy.
yeah,
I was coming home from work. I don't know. I love this story, but I was coming home from work in Toronto. I was coming down the 401. I was living in Woodstock at the time, and I had this old van, and I lit a cigar with the cigar lighter on the dashboard. But when I put the cigar lighter back in, I put it in too deep, and it continued to get hotter and hotter and hotter. And as I approached Woodstock, my van started to fill up with smoke, and there was flames underneath my dashboard. So I phoned the fire department in Woodstock,
right.
and the guy says, "Whereabouts are you?" And I said, "I'm just coming down the street. I'm going to be pulling in your parking lot in a minute."
Bring it to us.
So I pulled in, and as I was pulling in, the 2 bay doors were going up. It was great. And it looked like a movie. These 4 guys, 2 or 3 guys in bunker suits and 1 guy in a suit kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they're bringing extinguishers out, and they tooled my thing apart and they put it out.
Man.
And the guy asked me my name and took all this information. He says, I got to tell you, this is the first time in my career anybody ever brought a fire to me.
Yeah, it's true.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a
It's
good
funny.
one. That's a beauty. Yeah.
So do you find do you find that people give you, because of who you were?
Yeah.
I imagine the way people are sort of like they stop doing whatever they're doing when a cop comes around, or they ease up on their driving when a cop comes around. I imagine for you that there's a certain level of respect, or were people because you were the first on, let's say, the emergency Did people move, or did they sort of crowd? What was the more?
A lot of times you'll find, so just on the crowd part, a lot of times you'll find people want to see the dance, like want to see it.
People slow down and
They
on
want
a
to see
Gardner
it.
just to see.
They want to have a look.
Yeah.
But what'll happen inevitably is they have a look and then they regret they did. In most cases, if it's a minor thing, it's not a big deal, But if they really see the stuff, yeah, they thought they wanted to, but they certainly don't when they see it. You know what I mean?
I can only imagine.
Yeah, and that was one of those things that I never really ever had dreams, nightmares, or anything like that of stuff. And I've seen a ton of shit. We'll maybe touch on it, but I mean, I've seen a ton of shit. But post stress that guys are having now and stuff, I never ever had any of that. I understand it. I get what it's about, but I never had it. I never had a nightmare. I never had sort of flashbacks of stuff. And
have you ever talked yourself into why maybe that was it?
Well, I think what I did was, and I used to talk, you'd always try to nurture the young guys or nurture anybody, not just the young guys, but nurture guys. If you've seen them sort of quiet after an incident or something, you'd sort of, try to pick at them a bit. And there was a lot of goofy shit we used to do to relieve that. Like, obviously, the pranks and the goofiness, that's great because it sort of takes the stress level down. It gets you thinking otherwise,
Sure.
But I always used to sort of say to them, like, the only reason that I could cope with it or handle it was I always felt I was doing, no matter what the situation was, I was doing better for somebody. I was helping. If you look at it in a help scenario, I helped somebody. Okay, so the person is finished. There's nothing you can do for them. You get there and it's out of your control. It happened, before you got there. They're finished. That's the end of them. You can't help that person. But you can help other people. You can cover that person up. You can deal with that person so that other people don't need to see the tragedy, And I always felt I was helping. A lot of times we'd get people that were really, really in bad shape. You did what you could for them. And then when you send them off into the ambulance, I always kind of had in my mind, right or wrong, I always had in my mind, I helped them. Whether they made it, I kind of believed they made it. I always wanted to believe once they went in the ambulance, things were good. Everything was all right. And that's kind of how I dealt with it. I didn't look at the negative things like what should I have done or what could we have done better. You look at that and analyze your process, but you don't feel regretful or sorrow for the things you didn't do, And if you do that, that's when you get into a jackpot, I believe, I think that's when you take too much of it. And you take it home and you just constantly festers with you. And the next thing you know, once you get about 10 of those packed on top of each other, you're finished, right?
I can imagine that there were guys that didn't deal with it the way you did.
Lots of guys, of course, lots of guys. And a lot of guys, traditionally, let's say self-medication was the first and foremost deal,
Right.
Lots of suicide, lots of that shit. Like, it happens to, you've got a large group of people. Some people can cope with it, some people don't. And so even the people that cope with it for so long, and then sometimes it pops, It's one of those things. It's so unknown. It's such an unknown
I
quantity,
imagine there's
right?
a lot of divorce, even, and there's
divorce.
a lot of
Terrible,
loss
terrible.
of friends, and
terrible.
other,
And I'm in company of people. I'll say and do things that I sort of check myself. I'll have to sort of check myself and go, wow, that's slightly inappropriate, or you know what I mean? Like, you always sort of find yourself sort of toning it down a notch. And I've been told that many a times. Like, it's like, tone it down. My
like, what do you mean in terms of what?
Well, like my sweetheart Darlene,
like a black humor.
Yeah, like my sweet
Oh,
Darlene
nice.
is awesome. Like, she's been with me since I started the job. She's seen me when I wasn't working on the job and seen how I progressed. And she's like, you know what? Sometimes you're on a rant or you're doing something, again, socially or not socially, and she'll be like, can you just tone it down a notch? Like,
Wow, really?
Yeah, and it's from that. Like, that's part of the deal, right? Like, you're so used to ramping yourself up. You can get so ramped up to do what you got to do, and now you got to channel that into something else, right?
Oh, it makes
in general,
total sense.
like when you're off the job, it's like, no, you're not jumping through windows. Like, take it down a notch, right?
What's interesting though is
Yeah.
we have several friends who are medics and
Yeah.
ambulance people,
Yeah.
And police officers,
Yep.
and firefighters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a dark humor.
For sure.
Black comedy kind of deal.
Of course there is. And again, that's a that's a mechanism to cope, right? Like you sort of have to.
Absolutely.
And there is a kind of a bright side to it. If, like disaster and all that stuff, there's a lot of bright side to it. And it's comical, it's comical once you step back from it. It's not comical at the time, perhaps, but it's funny as hell when you look at it from a distance. You go, wow, that was funny to the point of being bizarre. Not so much funny like a joke. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that.
Yeah, you're not making light
Light
of the
of
situation.
it. No,
but at
it's
the end of the day,
it's
pain
so
is
bizarre.
comedy.
Oh my God, it's so bizarre. Like,
Well, the other thing is nobody knows what you're going through.
Nobody.
I mean, people don't understand that type of humor. But when you can part yourself away from your sweet living,
right,
and realize that other people live in this world all the time. If you don't find some kind of humor or some kind of way to ease the hell that I don't know. I don't know how you put it, but
I get it. Of course, yeah. You got to sort of smile at it. Like you got to give it a joke at it once in a while.
I just find it fascinating that there's people like us that live a normal life.
Yeah.
And like the world.
Yeah.
Generally,
everybody.
yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
I don't get to see an accident every day, and I don't.
Care to?
Well, I don't care to, but and I don't see house fires every day.
Yeah.
But you guys
Yeah,
do.
Yeah.
And I mean, a career or a job is usually what defines a man or a woman.
Yeah.
It's that's less firefighter.
That's your being.
It's
for sure. Right.
And so that is sort of what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Literally. From
you carry that
morning
credential, right?
all the way to when you go to bed at night.
And it used to be the sort of prep up before too, because we started doing a shift thing. We used to do shifts all the time. Of course, it's a shift-based deal, but we went to a 24-hour shift. It was really good. It was we'd do 24 hours on, 24 hours off, a couple of days a week, and then we'd have a split. We'd have 2 days off, like 48 hours off, and then back to 24 on, 24 off. Super great situation. So you stayed there, and it's one thing to do a day shift, let's say 8 hours or something at any task, but when you got 24 hours of it, that's a long time to be on your game. You know what I mean? Like you wake up in the mornings, no matter when you wake up, you say, my back's a little sore today or my knee's sore. There's always a complication. So to be hot for 24 is pretty amazing. Like it's pretty tough to psychologically get that together. So you can well imagine the day before that shift, you're thinking, okay, it's going to be just a chill day today. Like I'm not overexerting myself in any way because I want to be good for tomorrow. I know I got that stretch to do. So I'll get to bed early and, be careful, whatever. You just sort of played a really easy day before you knew you were going on shift and psychologically too.
So if you have a 24-hour shift.
Yep.
So you're going to go to bed at some point in that 24 hours.
At 11 o'clock at night there was no more duties after about 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock, they would say, okay, after 10, you're welcome to go lay down. One guy would have to stay and man the radios. So you'd have to go down and there'd have to be somebody alert in the hall so the other guys can lay down. If you've ever tried to sleep in a fire hall, knowing that at any moment the bell's going to go off, sleep is bullshit.
This is
honestly,
my question.
You're right. You're not sleeping. So you're really awake for 24 hours. As you get more settled into the job, and I'm not going to say I never slept in 25-year, 30-year career. I never slept. I slept. But that sleep is nothing but, it's not REM. Like you're not getting into any kind of good sleep.
Right.
You are just trying to recover is all you're doing. Your body's trying to recover from the sitting waiting, if it's sitting and waiting, or the running around you did all day,
Yeah, well, the next day when you have a 24 off, half of that's sleep.
You're finished. If you can manage at home, by the time you get home, you're just exhausted mentally.
You mentioned
let's say
you mentioned that stress that Sean felt. Sean Lawrence.
Well, I wrote a TV series, an episode called Quiet Stress.
Yeah.
And I imagine that
that's a term that a friend of mine who is a psychologist who was once a firefighter and a police officer is now administering to those boys and ladies
have troubles. Yeah.
Quiet stress is what he called it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the medical term, but sure works for me.
Yeah.
Because you guys are sitting on that couch or doing whatever you're doing. You're signing the big 30-ton toolbox.
Yeah.
I love that term.
Yeah.
And when that bell goes off,
Yeah.
it's not something good at the end of that.
No. And you're already pre-loaded.
Yeah.
Like you have to be loaded for that bell. Like you're constantly, nobody can understand that anticipation. I worked with a guy, many guys, but I worked with one guy, and he was a genius thinker. Like the guy was amazing. He used to listen to all the rhetoric. Oh, you guys sleep all the time, blah, blah, blah. And he used to go home and he told the stories many times of his wife always chirping him about, you worked all night and then you come home and you sleep all day and you don't get anything done around here and blah, blah, blah. So he the one night he said, you know what? I got to come up with an idea how to solve this situation. So what he did was he said to his wife, and like I say, just a genius thinker. He said to her, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Just to sort of try to welcome you into what's going on in my head. What I'm going to do is tonight when we go to bed, anytime, whenever, he says, I'm going to shake you, wake you up out of sleep, or you're not sleeping, you're just laying there. I'll wake you up, swing your legs out of the bed, put your slippers on, get up, walk into the kitchen, turn around, and come back to bed. That's all you got to do. He said, I might do it, I might not. It's how, he says, so that be prepared. He said, if I do it, if I give you a little nudge, he said, just at your leisure, don't rush, just swing your feet out of bed, put your slippers on, walk into the kitchen. And he said, the first night we sleeping away, and he said, I let it go. She was well sleep. She was well sleeping. And he said, I reached over and
This guy's a comedian.
Yeah, give her a little shake. And he said, she woke up. Whoa. And he said, oh, our thing, like do your slippers now. So she played along with it. She put her slippers up, went into the kitchen, came back, bumped into the wall. He says first she couldn't open the door of the bedroom. She got the bedroom door open, bumped into the wall 2 or 3 times going down the hall, came back to bed. He said, I let it go. He said, didn't do anything. He said, then she rolled around. He said, he stayed up. He said, I couldn't help myself, but I stayed up just to get my point, just to make my point.
Of course.
He said, she rolled around for about 2.5 hours. He said,
Waiting,
anticipating, and being sort of jolted by that first one. He said, that night, I didn't do another one. So she said, well, that, after in the morning, they discussed it, and she said, that wasn't so bad. He says, okay, cool. So the next night, he didn't say he was going to do it again. It was over. Like she figured the experiment was over. Next night, he proceeds to do it, and he did it and rung her bell and got her up, and I don't know how many times he did it the next night, but he did it for a couple nights in a row. And after about 2 nights in, she said, don't you ever do that to me again. I will never say a word to you about your problem, whatever. She said it was the perfect, sort of understanding of it. And she said, and I wasn't doing anything. I didn't run down the street and put a fire out or pick some kid out from underneath a car. I didn't do any of those things.
Yeah.
But that stress and that shit of doing that, she said it was incredibly prolific and figured out.
Well, I imagine
she understood.
I imagine there's one selfish wife though that says, "Hey, listen, you chose this.
Right.
This is your problem.
This is your problem. You deal with it." Well, that's why they don't last. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
You're not
exactly.
going to, the guy's going to just say, done. It's done.
That technique should be taught at fire college.
It should. It really should. And I only mentioned it to my better half. And when I mentioned the story to her, when I recanted the story to her, she totally she didn't need to go through the test to understand. Like, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
That's why I like to tell it, because it sort of gives you an understanding of, that would be a ridiculous way to live, And it is, right? Like half of my life, of those 30 years, half of it, 15 years of it, I spent sleeping with guys in a fire hall. Like I wasn't home. Yeah. So you know what I mean? If you put it in those perspective, it's bizarre. Like it's a bizarre way to live.
I'm
right?
glad you told that story because people that are listening to this that are not firefighters,
man.
100%.
I've never heard of this stuff.
No,
I don't know what goes on.
Oh, it's 100% the way it is. And so now put that other factor in where you got to get up, run down the stairs, jump in our toolbox again, and bomb down the street.
Now,
like, have you ever gotten up for a pee in the middle of the night?
You're also not
can't
in
even see.
You're not even in your attire.
You didn't put
or
nothing
your helmet
on.
Nothing.
How long does that take to get sorted? Slide down a fire pole, get onto a truck without breaking your ankle.
You get to slide down the pole?
The pole was the best part.
Well, that's the reason people become a firefighter.
That's right. I think everybody. Because
Did you
of
learn
that.
any dance moves?
No, but I could stop halfway. I could stop halfway.
We'd all love to see it. I'm sure.
Yeah. We used to really entertain the kids when they come by the hall. We'd climb up the pole or slide. Oh yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I'll tell you a real good one of just sort of the 30-year career. I had, greatest time of my life. And at the end of the 30 year, the last day of the hall, and my last day in there, and I decided I'm going to retire. Lots of people were, like all your peers are like, "God, what are you crazy? How do you we're going to retire?" I was like, "I'm out of here, man. I'm done." It was to the day, it was to the day of my anniversary, 30 years on the button. And I just happened to, my timing was great. Like I got on at 24 years old, and my 30 years was up, and that got me the 50, and it got me the golden, got me my pension. The pension was full pension. It wasn't taken down. If you leave earlier, your pension is obviously diminished, right? So it was a full pension. I'm ready to go. I'm out the door. I've done my best 5 years as a captain, so you couldn't even make your pension better. It was beautiful. It was as good as it was going to get at the time. So the last day, and I had an alarm clock, little Sony, that I used to wake me up. It woke me up for work every day for 30 years. And it was the same machine, like this little Sony Dreamcatcher radio. And I woke up that morning, and I unplugged it, and I put it in a bag, and I put it in the truck, and I drove to the hall. And I sort of had the plan. I'm like, that thing is never going to wake me up again. So I took it with me to the hall, and we got to the hall, and I called the guys down on the floor, and they know it's the day, like they know it's coming.
Sure.
And it was a tough day. I got there, and I'm thinking, it's everything is your last. My last breakfast, my last time I put my uniform on, my last drive into the hall. Yeah. I get to the hall, and I got the guys early, and we put a breakfast on. We had some breakfast that morning, and I said to them, I got down on the apparatus floor. I piped over on the PA, like, everybody to the floor, and they're kind of, like something's going on. So they come down to the floor, and I tell the one guy, Jeff, younger guy at the time, I said, "Jeff, grab this sledgehammer." So he goes to the truck, and he grabs the sledgehammer. I come out the back, I take the sledgehammer, and I beat the shit out of that alarm clock in the backyard.
Oh, yes.
I smashed it with all the passion
Office
I could.
Space moment.
Oh my God, man, I beat it. I beat it to death. Then I took the piece that was left on the cord, and I swung it around, and I bashed it till it was just pulverized. And those guys are laughing their head off, and they got it on camera, and they can't believe what's going on. And I'm like, man, that's the end of that little beauty. It'll never bother me again,
But it was there for you.
It was there for me for those years. It got me to work every day. And then we get this call. Like, I no sooner smashed the shit out of this thing, we get a call to a fire just down the street from us. And it was smoke visible in this, under the apartment, they had a daycare. So it was little kids, not school year, not school ready kids. So what, 2 to 3 or something like that?
Okay.
No more than 3 or 4, 3 years old, 4 years old. And there was about 20 or 30 of them in this little place. We get there, and there's smoke, and they were doing toast or something. The teachers were doing toast for the kids, and they set the detector off. It was no big deal. We cleared the smoke out. And I go out the back now to tell the teachers, you can let the kids in. The kids are all out the back. And I open the door, and I go out to the teacher. And as soon as the door opens, and I'm in the full bunker gear and the whole deal, as soon as the door opens, the kids just light up, screaming and hands in the air. Rah! They're just going bonkers, fireman! And the teachers, their faces light up, like, it's the fireman. And I go out there and said, as soon as they did it, I was just like, wow. Tomorrow, I'm not going to get any of this. Like, the superhero cape is finished tomorrow, man. Like, and I tell you, I turned around, like, I could just feel it well up. And it was like, maybe it was depression, maybe it was all that stress and everything, but I turned around and I went back in the door. I couldn't face them, man. I was bawling my eyes out, man. Like, I just started crying. And, I'm thinking, wow, I got to pull this shit together. And the guys I'm with, I'm like, just like, and I look up and they're there, and I send them back to the truck, like, just pulled it together. I go, get back to the truck. And so they go back to the truck, and I go back out there now. And the kids are not stopped. They haven't stopped since I was first out there. They're still screaming and yelling, and their faces are just like lit up. Their eyes are so big. And I'm telling you, man, that was like the definitive moment, like, it was just like, it was unbelievable.
What a fitting end.
The feeling, like, was just like, shit, tomorrow I am just regular dude, like, I'm not this, what I perceive, like, and what other people perceive, not so much myself, but you're that super person, man. Like, you're an icon, right? The truck and everything. And it's like, man, you're bigger than life, right? And it was just so demoralizing, I must say, man. Like, I went back to the hall. Man. I didn't speak. I didn't say a word on the way back to the hall. It was only 2 minutes away. I didn't say a word to those guys. Nobody looked at me. They were just looking straight ahead. It was like, oh my God, man, like, that's bad. Like, that's That's a breakdown, man. Like that's
Oh,
a
wow.
super breakdown. And it was hilarious, man. I got back to the hall and I was like,
Did you have any regrets?
I don't think so. I don't think I'm a regretful person, to be honest with you. Like you can't. How can you regret that? Like you can't, man. There was so much good of it, and it was just like I would never say, "Oh shit, I should put another year in," because it's like life in general. You can do that other year. I'll stick. Oh no, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to do
How many
another-
years, right?
Yeah, how many years are you going to do it? And then maybe that year is the year where you don't come out of the place, or whatever. Something shit happens, and it was like, no, I don't think I'm going to go that way. And you know what? Earlier we touched about, and you said, like that kind of defines you. Your career defines you.
Yeah.
I did feel it did to an extent, but I don't want to be just that.
And I'm not
Right.
saying
No,
it defines
yeah,
you.
no, not
you
personally me.
personally.
But
But that
most
is
people.
but it is a lot. It is often how we describe each other.
Yeah, of course.
Someone else's perspective.
Yeah.
and
It's nice.
yeah.
It's nice to not be just that. You would think you're more rounded. Like, everybody should be.
Well, and as someone who does know you,
Yeah.
you're wicked rounded.
See? Like
know.
you should have a little more to offer, right?
Of course.
Right? And now, with that being said, to offer yourself in that manner, that's enough. Like that's good. I think those credentials are okay. If you get,
course,
if you do 30 years of helping people, man, you're good. You get a
course.
buy. You get a buy, right? Like anything else over above that is a bonus, right? But yeah, it's crazy how people are, people are so enamored by it. Like it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal that you can put such a career in and do it. It's good, man. It's really good.
So can you think of what your best day was?
Oh, best. Probably the first and the last were probably the best. The in between stuff, it was just so much of it. Like it was just so much. If it was maybe a smaller department and you could have maybe absorbed more of it, you know what I mean, or
I see.
enjoyed more of it. It was just so much. It was so like. I've get together with buddies of mine, guys I started with or guys I've come on with and spent a lot of time with, and we'll all tell stories about this, that, or the other, or have a laugh about something. And it's like, I don't even you go, what?
Yeah.
I don't, they're telling the story and they're going, me and you, remember that time we crawled in the thing? I'm like, what?
But that's a 30-year career.
Right.
I have the same thing with people say, I saw a movie the other night and your name was on the credits.
Yeah, not even.
I don't remember doing that movie.
Yeah, you can. I think you can only. Your capacity is only so much, right? We can only.
Well, too, you're also in a zone, man.
Yeah.
You're not sitting here trying to make memories. You're
Right.
like
You're right.
You're trying to.
You're absolutely-
Your head is in a completely different space.
You're absolutely right.
Have you had a worse day?
Yeah, there's been lots of bad ones. Like there's been a ton of beauties. We had when I was at Dufferin and DuPont, the subway was there, and I'll just say one. I'll put a cachet over the top of it all. The worst tragedies that people suffer, like the worst accidents and stuff they suffer, is the least pain or anguish they're in. If you can understand that, when somebody is really, if somebody gets a paper cut, they're screaming their head off. They're running around like mad people. If you're cut in half, you're not screaming. Like they're so mellow and so laid back. It's almost surreal and scary. Like you've been to many close situations with people where you're right there in their face and they are heinously destroyed. Like
your body's like, your brain's going, hello, we don't want to don't want to do this.
Like, and you're looking down like, I want you to be, you should be screaming your head off because that looks pretty sore to me. Like that's a lot. That's a, wow. That's
no
crazy.
doubt.
Look, and they're not. They're very calm and matter of fact. Some people, some situations, I'm not going to say that.
Bring it down a little
Sorry.
bit. We want to see your pretty face. Sorry, Les.
Yeah,
I don't mean to interrupt you, man.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how calm and sort of serene they are at that point. Like it's fascinating, really, because you think you really should. I want some feedback. Like I want some yelling and screaming because I know that's got to be bad. Like, but they're not. They're just so like matter of fact, and they're talking to you. And some people are not. Obviously, they're so they're shocked out or they're they can't physically.
Well, what I
can't.
find interesting so far is just that you're talking about a guy perhaps cut in half or losing a limb.
Yeah.
You're not even talking about fire.
No, beyond fire. Like, I mean, fire is the worst one.
You mentioned the subway.
Yeah, the subway. The girl jumps in. We did the subway calls all the time, and nobody understands. They don't publicize it, but people jump on the subway. I don't want to say every day because I don't know if that's really the number, but It's regular.
It might as well be.
It's super regular.
I've shot in a subway where just over so and so this subway
Yeah.
Someone has jumped.
Oh, it's super busy, man. Like that's a huge part of their responsibility on that department. And
Crazy, man.
we'd have to go down and get them out. The TTC don't do it. The paramedics don't go on the platform, off the platform. The police aren't doing it, so it's always a fire. And we would have to crawl. They leave the train, so they stop the train. And of course, everything's shut down. They shut the power. We make sure the power is shut down. We check, double check, and then we go under. And you crawl under that train. There's no room. Like, it's ridiculous. It's filthy as hell and dark as hell. So it's already the spook factor. The scary factor is always huge. And then all of a sudden, there's this, person that's so destroyed. Like, the train is the worst thing, man. You can't imagine the damage that thing will do. It's got steel wheels on a steel track, so man, it's like a chain. It's better than a chainsaw, it's ridiculous. We had this girl. She jumps down on the subway in the morning. We dragged her out. She's screaming and yelling at us, and obviously very serious about doing herself an injury. And she was banged up very bad. We get her out, and she's yelling and screaming at us, trying to grab for there's a power line. The third rail is the power rail. She's grabbing for that, she's going to kill everybody. And we wrestle the hell out of her. How do you, two guys wrestling this woman underneath a train? Like, I don't know, it's crazy. We get her out and get her onto the ambulance, take care of her, and they're away. That was in the earlier part of the day. After dinner, we get a call back to the subway, same subway. She was under it this time and finished the job this time. She got out of the hospital. She went to Emerge. She got sorted out, bandaged up. She escaped from Emerge and jumped back at the train.
Jesus.
A second time. And that was to me, I just couldn't wrap my head around that one. That was just, I was like, man, after all that, you got a chance almost. You know what I mean? Like, how bad is your life that you got a chance? We dragged you out of there. You were so determined at that point to do it. And then you got bandaged up and went and did it again. Like, wow. And that just sort of galvanized with me, trouble people. People, when they're troubled, it can be so deep that there is no untroubling them. You know what I mean? They are just, wow. It's just, it's
That's
beyond.
sad,
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's sad. It's sad. And it's a crazy statement on the human race, like that we're that bent, that we can't help each other or get help or whatever. It's weird, man.
But that also goes to show that if they're determined to do it, they're going to do it.
They're going to do it. Just like anything. If you have that determination, that serious of a determination, well,
Regardless of the help that's offered.
regardless of the help, you're going down to do your job, right? You're going to get that finished. So yeah, it's amazing. And I think that's the same as what we're saying too about, the stunt game and that, or fire department, whatever you're serious about doing, you will do to the best of it, right?
Yeah.
You'll go all the way with it if you're serious, right?
Right. Speaking of best.
Yeah.
Tell me about your bike.
The bikes.
Yeah,
the bikes. Yeah.
No, I told you to bring your bike inside because
He thought he was on Randy thought he was on that Les came up on a bicycle.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if I looked like I was dressed that way. I mean, I guess if I looked like I came on the pedal bike, maybe, but
Yeah, you do look like a pedal bike guy.
guy.
I said to myself, he wears those boots on a pedal bike.
Yeah, well, you can't see.
It's going to be a tough looking one.
You can't see Les's really tight, skin tight shorts that he's
No,
wearing
you
underneath
can't
the
see
desk
them.
here.
Yeah. The spandex that I wear on my motorcycle all the time.
I'm gonna take a shot of with
Yeah.
your permission. I'd
Yeah,
like to
of
take
course.
a shot of your bike and
Yeah.
I'll post it up on this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right
Absolutely.
on.
It's a
Absolutely.
sweet looking
Yeah,
ride.
thanks, man. Thanks. Make sure you get a picture of the pickup in the background too.
Oh, definitely.
That'll frame it
Yeah.
really nice.
100%.
Yeah, the bikes. I've always been into cars and bikes and stuff. I mean, that's my thing, right? Like, and I had a ton of cars. I was gonna do hot rod at the time, 15 years ago or so. I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do a nice hot rod. I'm gonna spend the big money and do the at the time, let's say $100,000 machine. I'm gonna really do a street rod. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, you got. What is it going to take you 2-3 years to build it? It's $100,000 plus. And do I have the capabilities to do all those things, the fab and the metal, and you're farming out the work and it comes back shoddy, or you got to redo it? I've seen all those.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen all those catastrophes, and I thought maybe the bike thing would be, I like bikes, and I thought maybe the bike thing. A good buddy of mine was doing custom bikes at the time when that was the rage, and I went over to his place. I painted a few bikes for him, and he said, "I got to shake these 2 bikes down. Can you come for, can you help me ride the things? If I take one, it's going to take twice the time. So if you ride one with me, we can go for a ride." I'm kind of looking at this thing. Holy shit, man. Big stretched out chopper. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm, righteous enough to drive the thing. It's a customer's bike. I'm thinking, man, all you got to do is wreck it. Or if it was my bike, I wouldn't want some jackass like me riding it. Maybe the first ride should be the owner. But anyway, we got over that. And I take it for a ride, like once I rode it, I was done, man. I was like,
How long ago was that?
That was like maybe 15 years ago, I want to say. And I thought, man, you know what? I need that chop. Like, I don't think there's anything better. And they are good, man. Like, cars, had lots of cars, have a car, like the cars, but they're not as sketchy as the bikes, man. The bikes are scary as shit. And
hell yeah, they are.
You know what I mean? Like,
which I find really fascinating because a lot of firefighters that I speak to will always say they won't ride motorcycles anymore because of
what you see.
Yeah.
And I do, and it plays with me. It plays with me. Trust me. Like, especially when you're wrenching them. Now I'm like, wow, like, you can't have a bad moment on that bike. Like, if something fails on it, it's over. A car, you can lose probably 2 of the wheels and still get it to the curb.
For sure.
You're right.
For sure.
A bike, no. You lose a foot peg and you're dying. Like, it's over. You know what I mean? Something just small, you're finished. So the responsibility to make it right is cool. That's what I like. I like that sort of super pressure when you're building them. And then, of course, when they work, the achievement is like, wow. Christ,
well, I
really?
sat on this
doubt.
scooter. This is wicked.
I think it's a beauty.
When they work,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
wild.
Man, it's good. And it's maybe that affirmation of what we talked about earlier. It's not just who you are. You can excel at other things and maybe excel really good at them. That's kind of right. I think we're all sort of running for that. We're trying to search for that goal. I think
100%.
You really want the best, right?
Well, speaking of that, how were you motivated as a young man to get into the work you got into?
I was a firefighter from my earliest possible memories. Like, I mean, 5 or 6 or 7 years old. We're out pedaling around as the kids are. You're playing on your pedal bikes, and the kid comes off his pedal bike, and I'm like the first one. I'm dropping mine and running over, and like sorting the kid out. I had no training. I didn't know. Take the kid's shirt off, put it over his lip because it's bleeding. Like, how does a kid know that?
It's interesting that you recognize that.
But I did, and I do. Like, to this day, I go, wow, man. Like, I was pre-programmed for that job ages ago.
Okay.
I was about 16 years old. The car goes. We're at Morningside, standing at the bus stop. Me and a buddy of mine. Car comes down Morningside Hill, off the road, down the embankment. What the hell? I didn't even think, man. I was across that road running down that hill after the car. Like, it was. I don't know how it's possible that somebody is already pre-programmed for that.
Yeah,
right?
you're not a firefighter if today you pick up the phone to film the accident.
Right. That's when you're really not a part of it.
Yeah.
But you might become a filmmaker.
You might be a filmmaker.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Documentary.
There's nothing wrong with that. Right? Yeah, you could be an investigative journalist, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Right?
True.
That can parlay into some good bucks. But like stupid shit like that all the time. Anytime when we were younger, we'd go camping, and sure enough, the guy that jumps through the fire pit, and I'd be right over, man. Get your leg bandaged up, get the cooler, dump the ice water on it. Like, I got it, man. I got it.
I remember that because I was the guy that jumped through the fire.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
That's the stunt guys. Like, we're always taking care of you guys, man. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous, man.
It's awesome, man.
So, yeah, as you would, and you would get into that field if you were the fire jumper guy. You know what I mean? You would. That's how it goes. And I think those are the guys you want to find. I think that's how you should find them, too. You know, when they sit down for an interview, police, fire, whatever, give us a little bit of your, what did you do from you were 8 till 15 years old?
You?
That's
And,
interesting.
and the person says, you know what, I did this. I cooked bacon and eggs when I was 3 years old. They go, man, you're chef's college for material for sure. You got it.
Sure.
And I think we'd be better off, man. Everybody be doing what they want to do, whether it's minimum wage or not. But you'd be
totally
right. The guy who can do cooking should be cooking, not working at the steel plant, wishing he was a cook. Man, like how tragic, right?
Yeah,
it's tragic, man.
We three are very fortunate. That we did what we love.
Absolutely,
and we continue
100%.
to do what we love.
I believe it absolutely, and it's a testament to the fact you can. Where a lot of people maybe do that junky job thinking, this is all I got, man. Like, if it's not for you, move on. Get your shit together. And,
I agree.
Take your guitar on the road, whatever it is, man. Do what you got to do.
Life's
see,
about making choices.
Yeah,
do you,
it is.
Do you feel like you retired in a good period where because today's like you said, it was a little different. I imagine
You retired and COVID hit.
Do you see a future of fire and how and where it might go?
I talked to a lot of guys that are still on the job who I came up the ranks with, and some guys, like they were the younger guys and they're still on the job now, and they're not experiencing the same job I did by any means.
Like
They're not.
like an example.
Everybody's pulling and when I say everybody, I don't want to diminish the fact, but the PSDD thing is going huge. Like it used to, PTSD. Sorry, you used, and maybe that's what I got. But maybe you, maybe before it would be the bad back syndrome or something in life. But they're using that huge, and that would never happen back in the day. Like I know guys that had crazy trouble, and they would still drag themselves in to do the job. You know what I mean? They would be there because that's who they were. And now, I don't want to blame younger people because everybody sort of trashes that, younger folks, and they say they don't have ethic, they don't have work ethic, they don't, they're on for a free ride. They're, but it is, if you see that, it's got to be true. If we're seeing examples of it, then it must be real in some sense, I'm not saying everybody, I'm not blanketing everybody because everybody, you can't, right? There's great people and there's bad people and they're mixed up through the whole thing. But it seems to be a lot of that going on our job, and it's changed dramatically since then. And before, there'd be a day when the older guys or the more mature, the more senior guys would beat the bad out of you. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying, but they would make you better. And now they can't. There's none of that. You know what I mean? Sometimes shouting at people or giving people a serious talking to is going to sort them out. I think personally, that's how I was raised. That's how I was raised.
Do you think it goes back to what I said earlier about it's a calling?
Yeah.
And I'm not taking anything away from people with PTSD.
No,
I understand that
at
it's
all.
a real issue.
They're using it. A lot of people are using it that maybe aren't. And there's a lot of people that have bad backs that maybe aren't too. You know what I mean? Like in every aspect.
But there's a lot of it's coached too.
A lot of
it's somebody saying, well, you must have this. You must have,
right.
you should think about what you can get out of this. You can
Right.
do, there's all these other avenues that are motivating this
That's
problem.
right.
I
And
imagine.
it's a paycheck, I find it's turned into more of a job. I want to believe a lot of it is from what we said before about the hiring practices. Once the city gets onto the hiring practices, they dropped all the standards for women to join the job. Fire department. They dropped the standards. And I feel that's terrible for women who want to be equal. Like the whole idea of getting women on the job or getting women to participate in the fire service was so an equality issue, right? That's what it's about. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't lessen their qualifications, and they did. Like it's a historical fact. They dropped the regulations. You didn't need to lift the big ladder. They had a smaller ladder. You didn't have to lift the hose. You could say no thanks. They can do that now. Even a big guy can say, no, I don't want to do the big hose. I'm not up for it today.
Okay, I know a story of a guy, an old friend who was a police officer. And to make a long story short, no one should ever be on the job that you were on who could not extricate you from an incredibly dangerous and situation.
Exactly. 100%.
That can't physically move you.
Exactly.
When you got your pack on and you got all your stuff on.
There's guys that can't move another guy.
Right.
Right? They shouldn't be on either.
That's my point.
Right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And there are women that exceed a lot of men.
And I'm not slighting anybody, but you get up 30 stories after you've humped up those stairs. If you can't extricate the citizen from that burning apartment, who's in shit?
Well, first of all, that is going to carry with you for the rest of your life, perhaps, if you care. That's going to destroy you because you didn't do your job. And, how do you live with that? How do you live with yourself? So you're putting the person into a bad situation, making it worse, And again, if you put yourself in another perspective, if your legs get cut off in a car accident, Do you want some young girl coming up to you and asking you how things are and like, rubbing your neck? You need somebody to get me out of here with my legs, get me into the hospital. That's your, like I'm going to die if I don't get my shit sorted out here. I don't need, I don't want the less efficient person to be doing it. I want the best, same as the cops. Somebody's breaking into my house and threatening me and my wife. I want two great big dudes about 6'6" who are coming in hot. Like, I don't want somebody looking down the street and maybe feeling how emotionally if everything's going to work for them. And you don't want that, man.
Well,
But that said, though, there are some females, there are some women who are on the job who are incredibly physically
Of course.
capable.
Of course.
But
Give them their
But that-
credit. Give it credit where credit is due.
100%.
I don't think they're a great investment for the city because they're not going to do a 30-year career. That's just me. Ladies, by all means, physically active. I worked with girls who were unbelievably fit, unbelievably capable, unbelievably motivated to do the job. Born, they were firefighters. They're not going to give you a 30-year career. That's just me. Their capacity will not be 30 years, 25 years on the truck, and then they'll be moving on to management positions or something to that effect, and that's fine. But the city will. It's not a great investment for the city,
that's
and
an
that's just my
interesting
blanket.
perspective.
My blanket statement for the city. That's not a great a great investment. I think the city, if they're so concerned about numbers and money, which they are, and the financial aspect of it, they're going to be more costly. And a lousy firefighter male is the same thing.
Sure.
If he's bad and he's costing you money and he's sick all the time or he's not playing the game, he doesn't want to get up to go to work. They should not be on the job either.
Now, is there a union that protects them from being let go?
Pretty strong union. I will say the union is pretty strong, and they have their mandates, obviously. And I think some of their mandates could be
Lightened up.
yeah, it could be lightened up somehow, some way, or a little more righteous than they are. I don't know.
Has COVID affected it? Do you know?
I think COVID played a big
imagine
role.
it did.
Yeah, COVID really upset the whole scheme of things there, I'm sure. And the work we did, the work the fire department did during COVID was, obviously challenged as well, right? There was so many protocols and stuff in the way that was super challenging, I'm sure. I did through the SARS thing, and it changed the job hugely. That, I mean, the
Wow.
decontamination and all that stuff, like that was a huge part of our job, man. That just put another layer on the cake, right? Like it was crazy. Just put another, big cog in the wheels, right? So yeah, it's interesting. I understand we have to change. The world has to change, but I don't see us changing for the better for some reason, I just,
Well, we're certainly not on a route that feels that way.
I don't think so. I mean,
because I think what you're talking about is like across the board. We
I think
feel
it's
it in
across the
our
board.
own industry as well.
It's everywhere.
In our industry, safety is a massive role. In fact,
Yeah.
it's so massive that it should be number one at
Yeah.
all times.
Yeah.
But somehow it has lowered itself on the ranks of what plays what plays the most important role. In some scenarios, not all of them, but sometimes I think it's the wrong people who are in charge.
Yeah, I get you. I get it. Yeah,
The money makers are in charge.
Well, but the money makers, even they're not completely money makers. You know what I mean? There's always something that's confusing that whole issue to it. That's the problem with things nowadays. It's not black and white. Like, it's so watered down. We have to be careful with all sorts of stuff. And I think we've gone completely to, the extreme. We got to come back to the center a little better.
Yeah, the pendulum has swung so far.
Wow, we're in the race to the bottom. Like, we're racing to the bottom. Everything's cheaper and bullshit. And
Well, I don't mind. Like, that's the thing, is the pendulum is going so fucking far the one way that everybody's feeling it.
Of
I
course.
mean, more and more people are feeling this, and they want to see the pendulum come back.
I
So
believe-
I think we're gonna come back to
I
that
hope.
center.
I hope, but
frame.
the Romans didn't, and the Egyptians probably didn't. So I don't know. Maybe who knows, man?
Maybe
Who
not.
knows? Who knows?
Maybe we're doomed.
We could be. We could very
That's
well
my
be.
thinking.
We could very
I
well
really
be.
do.
At least a few
Feel
good
that.
people slide through. Like that's
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And we can build some apocalypse motorcycles and
Yeah, man.
know.
Yeah, and race around, cause trouble.
absolutely,
Cause
and
trouble.
cars with cow movers on the front. And,
Mad Max.
yeah,
Mad Max.
Yeah, Mad Max.
Yeah, that's not so bad.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, I think so.
Sounds like fun.
I think so.
Oh, wild.
Yeah, man.
Well, I don't know. Take us
take us
on
somewhere else.
on a bit of a ride. Yeah,
Okay,
let's go up a few stories.
Okay.
What's it like? Like
what
really
can I do?
downtown Toronto, man.
It was busy, man. It was,
Oh yeah. Hey, take a sip of that. I'm gonna refill you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was a plenty of good times. Let me give you some good ones. We go to a call. Let's say it was when I was at 26. How is that, by the way?
This is very good.
Hey,
Yeah,
smooth and
enjoy it.
silky.
Yeah, it's incredibly smooth.
And you do get good and high off it. That's
A
for
buddy
sure.
of mine drinks this stuff. Bart. Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, good to Bart, man. You should get him over.
Yeah, I gotta get Bart
Shout
here.
out to Bart.
Shout
Shout out to Bart, man. Yeah. Was when I was at 26 Hall. I never did start off, but the first day I was at the hall, the very first day I went to 26 Hall, I got into the hall. You say your good mornings to the guys and stuff, and the kitchen was off to the side. And as a rookie, you don't just go in and go into the kitchen. You sort of wait for your place, you know. And I don't know how you know that. Like, I don't know that. I don't think they said a word about that at the academy when we were training. I don't know how I knew about it. But anyway, you don't just go blasting into the kitchen like you're the new guy, and I stayed out on the apparatus floor. I got my equipment ready because that's why you're there, right? You get your equipment ready. And I think maybe one of the old captains at the academy might have said, listen, kid, like when you get to the hall, it's, put your head down and get to work. Like, that's how it works. You wait till you're asked to do, you're asked to come in for a coffee or something. You don't be just sauntering in there like you got the place and now you got your job, you're all good. You don't. You're on probation. So nose to the grindstone and shine, right? Make sure those guys see you shining. If you don't have a mop in your hand, or you're not shining that truck, or you're not looking at the equipment, there's a ton of stuff to do. And that was for sure you get there in the morning, you want to make sure all your gear is ready to go. So that was a big part of it. Your own personal gear is ready to go. Like your right boot's where the right boot should be. And, that's all got to be right. Like, your suspenders off your pants, you don't want them laying all over the joint. So you
don't want anyone else waiting for you.
No, that's not the way it is, right? And the new guy, you want to shine. That was the whole secret, right? Really shine.
Sure.
So I get in there, I got my stuff ready. I'm looking over the truck because, let's face it, this is probation. The first minute you're in the hall, you could go out. You got to open a cabinet. You better know where the stuff is, because that's a huge responsibility. You got to know where it is. The captain's not going to wait around for you to figure out where the axe is, or go grab a hammer and you don't know where it is. So
sure.
I wasn't in the hall. I don't think I was in the hall 10 minutes. It felt like a while, but I don't think I was there 10 minutes. We get a call. A Mustang, two young lads in a Mustang come barreling up the hill on Coxwell, and they T-boned this Buick. I want to say Buick Century or something. They T-boned the side of this Buick Century on the passenger side. They kill the driver, kill the lady. So an older guy and his wife, they killed them dead. They went flying through the windows of the Mustang. The two of them went through the front window.
Jesus.
And we get the call. So that's happened. We don't know that. When we pull up, we hear a car crash, and we get there. So we pull up, and here's the two cars, Mustangs buried into the side of this car. The driver's door of the Buick, the car is now V-shaped, it's busted open at the driver's door. The old fella, he's hanging out of the car. Go running over to the car, and the driver's he's dead. His wife is dead, and so at the time we're the first truck in. So you first, it's a triage situation, and you quickly assess the situation. You can't help them very much, and they're not in any significant danger. It's over for them, right? Like, so that's you move on to the next to whatever you can find. Now there's drivers in that other car, and we don't see them. They're not in the car. The window's all punched out. There's blood everywhere. There's two guys running around the park, and there's a few pedestrians, and this is on Coxwell about 8:30 in the morning. Oh, 7:30 in the morning. So there's lots of people around waiting on buses and blah, blah. So there's people yelling and shouting, they're over there, they're over there. And we go running into the park now, and these two guys, and the hands on their faces. The one guy's laying down already, screaming and yelling on the ground, and this other guy's running around the park. And
because of what they've caused.
Because of what they caused, plus they went through the windshield, so they're in a bit of anguish. They're in a bit of anguish. And the guy laying down, a couple of the crew, the trucks are starting to roll in now, and a couple of guys run over to them, and they're attending to him. So the captain that I was with at the time, Lauren Hartley, super amazing dude, and Lauren and I go chase this other guy down. we got to tackle him to get him to the ground. He's yelling and screaming, and I mean, he's going out of his mind. We get him to the ground, and he's there's blood from his fingertips to his elbows, and his face is just, his face is a mess. We get his hands off his face. He's got safety glass just jammed in his face. What a mess it was, right? So we got him sorted, and we get them on ambulances. We get them out of there. Now we go back to the car, and the old fella, they've already extracted the old guy because it was easy to get him out. The door was wide open, busted open. They undid the strap and they got him out. So Captain Lauren and me, we go around to the other side. They've dragged the Mustang out of the way, and we're going to take the lady out of the car. And we got the body bag down on the ground, and Captain Hartley gets her. He comes in from behind her, and he says, I got her arms. Like, he crosses her arms. He goes, I got her arms. And he said, if you can just swing her legs out. So he's kind of giving me some instructions. Swing her legs out, and we're just going to take her off the seat and pop her onto this bag, right? So we got the bag opened up, and I'm like, okay, fair enough. And on 3, so I think it was about 2.5, he starts lifting her, and she is cut. She's totally severed from the seatbelt. Her hips, and they all stay, and the torso goes he moves the torso, and I'm sort of waiting on 3, and now I get, oh, wow, he's already getting her out. I guess I got to go, and I go. She's in 2 pieces, man, like totally severed.
Jeez.
It was just, and then everything, like, she has this sort of dress thing on, and so it's kind of covered. You're not really seeing what's happening, but you can well assume what's going on, because her leg,
Yeah.
it's like a circus act, man. Her torso's still sitting in the seat, or her bottom end is still sitting on the seat, but the torso's moving. It was bizarre.
Fuck.
And then it's like her fucking contents are all over me. They spill out all over the seat and all over my feet into the bag, obviously, because we're standing on the bag. And now he looks at me with this fierce look in his eye, and he's like, move, get her legs in there. Like, there's tons of people around and stuff. He's like, get her goddamn legs in there. So, okay, all right. So we get her in and sort of put her in a normal looking position and get there in the bag. And, and I was just like, man, I'm like, wow. This was my,
And this is your first
15
day.
minutes into the hall. This is my first day at the job.
And how old were we? 24?
24. And I look down, and I'm just just all over my boots and everything. I'm just covered in it. And I look down, and I'm telling you, man, if that wasn't a holy fuck
initiation
moment. Yeah, like an initiation by fire, And he's like, "Are you good?" And I'm, "Oh man." And I got a picture. You guys got to see it. I'll bring it. I got a picture the Toronto Sun photographer snaps this picture as I sort of turn around. And I mean, I was like this, young kid with a friggin' fire department, the helmet on and everything, but white as a friggin' ghost, man. Like, that picture, like, it's just a haunting image of, like,
What got you through the moment?
You know what? It didn't really bug me. Like, it didn't make me go, I was like,
You got to do what you got to do.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I said I wanted to be a fireman, and so, like, you got to nut up, man. Like, it's time.
But again, I got to remind everyone that's listening to this that this has nothing, again, to do with fire itself.
That wasn't a fire call.
It just goes to show what you deal with.
The traumatic bullshit of life, man. It's every day. It's, and that's what we did every single day.
Wow,
From people walking up to the hall with injuries, from people. And some of it wasn't as catastrophic. Obviously, some of it was enjoyable and fun, help me out with this or help me out with that, and we'd go and do it. And that was kind of the way Toronto was, too. Toronto was that older department. It was respected by the community, all those things, and now it's washing out. And I don't know why that is. Our culture, maybe.
Integrity, man. It's
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we used to, and I'm not blowing it for the reasons of it, but the bakery down the street, they knew they needed us. They knew they would have to depend on us. They'd come up with fresh bread in the morning. Like, that was the thing. They bring fucking bread to the fire hall.
Wicked.
And we'd get people, lady down the street makes an apple pie and brings it to the station. Brings the kids. She brought the kids in for a little tour, and next thing you know, the kids are making cookies for us. Like, that kind of stuff. Like, that happened all the time.
Appreciation, gratitude.
From the community. It was such a community based situation, right? And I don't think, of all the time I've talked to police, paramedics and that, they don't seem to get that same vibe. There was never that same vibe.
From the public.
Right. Right. And because the best people are always standoffish about police. The nun, like if a cop pulls a nun over, I wasn't speeding, officer, like the first thing out of her mouth. You know, she's not welcoming.
Well,
she's not welcoming the
that's the
stop.
thing. Nobody
right?
wants to see a cop coming to their door.
No.
Well, there's
'Cause
pain, pain involved with the cop,
right.
But
Yeah.
there's this, the saving aspect
and,
with you guys.
And we've seen it so many times too. Domestic disputes and everything. We'd go to a domestic dispute, usually first, and we'd get there. The cops would come. The cops would fire it up. Like the cops would not by themselves, but just their
appearance.
Their appearance. The wife and husband now are starting to lose their shit.
Well,
we had it sort of toned
excuses
down.
and who
Right.
I'm okay, or
Yeah.
I'm innocent. I'm
Right,
innocent.
right.
Yeah.
They're looking at the logistic part of it, not whatever the problem was. And I found that in every aspect of our job. Like, it was just like, we'd get in there, we could calm the situation down many a time before the cops. There was, oh my God, man, there was tons of times. We had a fella that was suicidal. He was going to kill himself. They got the call. We got there long before the cops. And me and the rookie went in and we negotiated the whole deal, man. We settled the guy down. We were in the room with the guy, and he's going to shoot himself. He's like, no, man, this is going down. And we sat there and talked with him. Like, just took my helmet off, sat on the chair, and he could have really popped us, but we didn't really think of it at the time. You didn't think you were jeopardizing yourself, right? And that wouldn't happen now. Nowadays, that would have been cordoned off, man.
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
would have
yeah.
been, and he would have probably, who knows, it could have came out worse, right?
Yeah.
We chilled the guy out and talked him down, and he was like, okay, no problem. And we're like, man, this is ridiculous. You got lots to live for. You know, we're not trained at it. Like, good God, it was probably the worst thing we could ever do, you know? And I was like, you know, I'd say, this young guy on the job here, he just come on. He doesn't want to see this shit. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want to pick your body up. It's, you know how much work that is? And we're starting to sort of talk with him on, you know, pragmatic sense. And it got through to the guy, man. He was like, yeah, you're right. This is rubbish. This is bullshit, man. I don't know.
There's tactical medics.
Yeah.
They've been around forever.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as tactical firefighters?
We didn't have a department. Like, we didn't have specific trucks for that. We would show up at all that stuff. Like any SWAT calls and stuff, we'd be there.
Now, the tactical medics have to stand back. The
They do.
SWAT team goes in, does their thing, and then they come in. I understand that. But I've seen it in action on Eastern Avenue once, and they're wearing helmets and flak jackets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well protected.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of times where we would get there first and go in or approach the situation, you know, before there was no protocol of stand back and wait with us. That was just the way it was.
What about now?
Probably now there is. I want to say now there is.
I would imagine so.
Oh, there is for sure. And I mean, if it's a police matter, then it's a big wait till they get that sorted out. And there are certain ones that you obviously wouldn't go to. Like, you know what I mean? If we pulled up and there was mass casualties or there's shooting going on, we're quite obviously not going to race into that. But a lot of times,
What about a fire?
Fires were in, 100%.
Even if it was a tactical situation with the police?
100%.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. I think even now with protocol, if there's fire, that's like in a first aid situation. If you're not breathing, no matter what else is happening, breathing is important. Breathing is first and bleeding is second.
And this is because the fire can spread?
Well, the fire can spread, and it can be, that's not going to happen, right? You got to get the fire out, and that's our job too. We would pressure any decisions. You know, if they're saying no, you're not. We are for sure.
Like what? Where? I mean, you're saying Trump or fire trumps everything to some degree. Like, in what do you mean?
The guys who showed up would do it.
So like
it would be right to the ground level.
If there was an active shooter.
Yep.
And wherever that person was held up and it was on fire, you guys are going in no matter what.
I'm guaranteeing you would go in.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm guaranteeing you would. And I'm going to put it into perspective. If I was the operational captain of that situation, there might be officers there. There might be chiefs saying not to, and that might be fine and dandy. You could still fight it. You'd still find a way to fight it. You know what I mean? It might be through the window. You might not be going. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Right?
Just a new angle.
A new
Be a
angle.
little
You might
creative.
take a creative approach to it.
If
there was no other option, though, like we'd be going in. Like if it's there's hazardous stuff in the back, and if we don't catch this, we're in trouble. A lot of times, exterior firefighting isn't going to cut the. It's not going to happen.
Now, see, this brings up another point.
Yeah.
You hit a building.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's in there.
You don't even know what it looks like inside the doors. You have no idea what the floor plan is. Nothing.
So now, do you endeavor to discover what's inside a building? Like there could be explosives, and there could be.
You have to treat everything like there is. That's how we used to do it.
Okay.
You treat every situation like it's the worst possible scenario, and anything under than that is a bonus. You
It's,
want
it's
you just
easier
want
to come back
it's
than it is to discover
you
and
can't-
keep new shit.
because discovery is such a long process,
Sure.
and such a time consumption, and you can't carry enough
Now-
equipment to solve that all the problems. You can't carry enough stuff to
Sure.
Now there is a certain level of respect toward a firefighter from the everyday citizen.
I would hope so.
Did you
I would hope
also
so.
did you feel that you got that kind of respect from even someone perhaps doing wrong?
Oh yeah, oh for sure. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think so, 100%.
Like an active shooter situation, I mean that's pretty extreme. But have you ever been in a situation like that where you felt like, oh fuck, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good one.
It's one thing. A cop is. I assume when a cop gets to something like that, that they sort of feel that they sort of are a threat to somebody.
Yeah.
But firefighters, no
I don't
threat.
think so. And I felt that for sure lots of times. We're not a threatening. They were so welcome. They were happy to see you, like 100%. If you show up when somebody's shit's going down, they were happy to see you. Nobody barricaded us out or troubled us,
Really?
Yeah. And I have to I'll step back a little bit because there was a few places like 1011 Lansdowne was a big building at the corner of Dufferin and DuPont, which historically it's well recorded. It's the worst apartment building on the planet. I mean, it's like ghetto beyond ghettos, and the place was crazy. It was nothing but drugs from the bottom to the top. It was constantly on the news.
Was there a movie studios in the back of it?
I think there was some stuff.
I shot some stuff up.
I think
Okay.
there was some stuff in there.
I mean, when I think about the area,
Dufferin
it's
and
a
DuPont,
pretty,
Yeah.
it's a shithole of an area.
Yeah,
and there's
sketch
a
as
railway track at the back of it, the Junction Triangle. The Junction is what they called it, and that building was really bad. And we had stuff thrown at us there. So I won't say that everybody respected us, but most people with some amount of sanity did. Like that place was crazy. They didn't respect themselves, so they're not respecting you.
Right.
The shit
Yeah,
they would throw
yeah.
beer bottles out the windows when we pulled up, and we were there constantly too. So that was another thing. We were sort of a bane of their, we got in the way of the party,
Of the
basically.
operation or whatever's going on.
Exactly. And
Okay.
that was pretty hectic. Like that was a crazy place. We had a really nice girl. She used to be parading up and down the street. A lot of prostitution and drugs. We picked her up many times off the street for drugs. And she jumped out of a 12-story window and survived the fall.
Whoa.
When the cops busted the place, they called us and they said, we're doing a bust at 1011, so show up. We pulled in. The cops were already there. They were well into the bust thing. And she jumped out the window out the back of the apartment and landed on the ground. She was so wrecked from that. We picked her up, got her in the ambulance, got her taken care of. And she walked around the streets after that, the same, like all decked out in
Wow.
her gear, all her legs were all busted up. And
Jesus, man.
yeah, these people they're superstars, like they're superheroes. They got power beyond. If they could only channel that stuff, they could rule the world, man. Those people.
Speaking of superheroes,
Yeah.
did you ever deliver a baby?
Couple of 3 babies, probably 3 or 4. I bet you
Nice.
3 or 4. Yeah, yeah. It's pretty shocking and pretty, surreal and weird and all those things. It's just like I don't have kids personally. I can relate to it. It's weird. It's a weird scene.
It sounds like a heroic thing, but
It's pretty humbling. Like it's pretty humbling.
Yeah, I bet.
and those people do feel thankful for it. Like they feel pretty thankful when it happens too, right?
So there's probably 3 or 4 kids out there named Les.
Yeah. They had him in. They had him in. We had one in a car. Lady gave birth to the kid in the car, just up on I want to say Bloor, and she pulled over and called us, and we delivered the baby in the friggin' front seat of the car.
Wow.
Slid the seat back and
It happens.
made her
man.
relax, and yeah.
Well, it's just a very classic situation.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Firefighters,
Oh yeah,
like in
for
the
sure.
Movies and
You're
TV.
delivering babies like
Yeah.
it's coming out of style. Yeah.
now you once told me a bit of a story about where you busted out your wrench.
Oh man.
Can we tell that?
Yeah, you can. It's a beaut, man. It's one of those ones. Some you forget, but some are just like, if you could put it in, if you could produce it a little better, and you could have got the right lighting and cameras, it would be a beaut.
You're mentioning this building.
Yeah, and it wasn't 1011, but it was like in that whole area. There's about 3 or 4 buildings, and it was an apartment building, in that junction. It was and that whole area was bad, but. Again, 1011 was the worst of the worst. It's been in the paper many times in Toronto. They're like, this is the worst building on the planet for trouble, drugs, and all those things. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we get up to the apartment, the one apartment, and we got it as, I think we got it as, I want to believe it was like a fight or something. It didn't even sound anything. It was like some kind of fight or something was going on, or just yelling and screaming in the hall or something. So we get up there, and it was like the 6th floor or something. We get out at the 6th floor, and there's a guy laying down halfway up the hall, and the halls are big. They're, I want to say 60 feet, let's say. And there's a guy about midway up the hall, and as we get out of the elevator, you can see he's bleeding. Not sure how, from 30 feet away, you're not sure how, but we get up there, and he is bleeding so bad. He takes his hands down from his neck, and he's cut his neck. It's cut through. He's got 2 big slashes or 3 big slashes on his, again, some stuff on his face, 1 great big gash on his neck, or 2 big gashes on his neck. His neck was opened up, like, to the point he's not breathing. He is, like he's gasping for air, and he's got this big cut on his shoulder. So we're sort of dealing with the guy. And the end of the hall, we're down on our hands and knees dealing with the guy, basically trying to push his head back and try to get some kind of oxygen flow, and scrambling for equipment in the bag. We got our O2 bag and stuff. We're scrambling for that and getting some big pads on him and start trying to, sort of contain this bleeding and stuff. And the door at the end of the hallway swings open, and out comes this guy in a sort of Mid-Eastern guy, and he's got this, it was like a waist, I don't know, what do you call it, a skirt, for God's sake, wrapped around a towel or wrapped around him or something. He's running out of a building, and he's yelling and screaming with about over 24 inches, nearly 30 inches. I'm calling it a sword. It was no bread knife. Like, it's a sword. He comes running, swinging that thing,
man.
swinging it above his head. Leave him, or whatever. He's shouting, yelling, and screaming at us. And he comes running at us, and we're on the, it's one of those things when you get focused in on something, but you still have to stay aware, spatially aware of where you are, because we don't know how this happened, but we know it wasn't, he didn't do it. We know, there was no tools around for the guy to do it to himself. We don't know where he came from. The doors are all closed, so we don't know what apartment he came out of. And when they're saying there's a yelling and screaming match, you're kind of thinking somebody else. Like, my first thought was somebody did this to the guy. He didn't do it to himself.
Sure.
So you're kind of keeping your peepers, you're keeping your awareness level high. Anyway, as soon as the door busts open, this guy comes running out, big sword, waving it above his head. It was so big that he's running down the hall, and it's scraping the walls and the ceiling as he's swinging it around. So it's 30 inches, man. It's a bloody sword. Not a, it's no knife. It's not a knife fight.
Scene out of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, it's not a knife fight, man. It's a sword. And he come on us quick. Like, he come on us super fast, and we're busy, super busy with this guy, because he's dying. Like, he's not just, it's not something where I can leave one guy. We needed all the hands we could on this guy to sort of deal with this, right? Mm-hmm. And we used to have these about 24 inches long. It's made of cast aluminum. It's got a square hex on it, a square opening on the end for hydrants to take the caps off of hydrants.
Sure, yeah.
I know the tool.
Oh,
You've seen the tool.
Big one with a lot of leverage.
It's a beauty, right? It's cast aluminum, so it's not super heavy, but it is pretty heavy for aluminum. You know what I mean? It's a good piece. We used to wear it in a leather holster on our belts. That was kind of your tool, right? You always had that on. The guy comes running down the hallway, and I don't know what possessed me, like, because there was plenty of shit we could have done. I could have got up and I could have got off my knees and did something, but he comes running at us, and like, I look up and I just see the blade going high, and when it goes high, you know what's happening. Like, it's
going to come down.
Well,
it's coming down, man.
Yeah,
the hammer's coming, right?
Yeah.
And I reached into the thing and got it out, and I sort of stood up and swung my hose key at him, and it caught him right on the chin. Like, it couldn't have been better. And it split his chin as it went past him, but it knocked him over, like knocked him back. It was a good one. Like, it was a great swing. And I'm standing up, so it was full on.
So,
he got a good launch.
He
got a super good launch. And it's got 24 inches, so it had a nice little pendulum action. Yeah. And it caught him just sweet. It was like when you hit a home run, it just hit that pop, and it was, man, it busted him. It busted him down. He went down on his back, and I was up, but not completely up. I just dived over and grabbed, get rid of the friggin' sword, and he lay there. He didn't budge till we were finished.
I hope that sword's up on your wall now.
Well, it's like
souvenir.
it's like, Jesus, man, how do you keep all your souvenirs?
Or at least that wrench.
The wrench is, it was significant, man, because it probably saved 2 guys from getting a sword in the neck, man, for sure. It was coming down on us like. That guy was not stopping, man.
Did you ever discover whether it was that sword that did the...
Well, we don't know. We don't. And again, a lot of times too, there's times when we would follow up, we'd phone the hospital and ask some questions, how the person was, or those kind of things.
Sure.
But a lot of times you really don't.
I imagine
you really don't want to know, man.
I imagine there's ones that are more sensitive than others.
And the cops would come by and give us stuff. Like they'd come by and chat too, right? Because like I say, where we were, the cops were kind of regulars at that hall, at that area too. I don't think that's the same case everywhere else, but so we had sort of the crew of cops were the same, and the crew of paramedics we all worked together. So they'd come by and say, "Oh, wow, that this, that, or the other." They'd give us some, sort of into the case of what was going on. Right, it was kind of cool. And and then we'd be sequestered, of course, if it was something. We'd be sequestered to trial if it was the case. Right, we've been to. I'd done that a few times. We've been to some murder trials and stuff like that. But yeah, just. Like I say, those are daily events. They were daily events, man. That was nothing out of the ordinary. Like, we get back to the hall and talk about it. It was just like everybody say their piece. You go, yeah, we clocked the guy and knocked. Oh, yeah, okay, right.
It's fascinating because unless you're a friend of a firefighter and you get to chat with them over a beer or whatever you're doing,
you're not going to hear.
Or you're married to them.
Yeah.
You have no idea that this actually happens on a daily basis.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
Yeah. And you know what, too? A lot of times, it's not sort of something like I don't really. It's only because we're in this setting I would sort of be blabbing about it.
Sure.
I'm not that guy. Like I don't start every conversation with, "Hey, how you doing? Oh, by the way, this guy got freaking, a sword in the head." Like I'd rather not do that. You know what I mean? Like if it comes up and you need to, I'll say to somebody, hopefully for betterment. Like that's kind of, and that's my whole sort of stigma with this today too. Like if you can help somebody, like I'm not saying these things for no reason. If you can help somebody, you should. You should 100%. So if there's any kind of takeaway from the stupid stories and the gore of it all, like help people. Don't run away. And if you can't help somebody, if you haven't got the capacity to hold the bleeding neck or help the person in some way, shape, or form, go get help and come back. Like don't just go get help and then leave. Go get help and then come back to that person. And it's important because a lot of times the only help they're going to get is you or somebody. And they might not be the best helper, but at least they can go get help. And I've said that to everybody. Talk to them and say, you know what? If you saw somebody, what would you do? Theoretically. And they would be like, "Oh, I can't stand blood or whatever. I wouldn't be able to do it." Okay, good. Don't look. Hide away at the blood, cover the blood and go run and get help. Get somebody who can.
Sure.
And that's hugely important.
But there's got to be something that takes over too. I mean, the
I think
adrenaline
so.
takes over.
I think so.
I've been in scenarios too where I've seen a motorcycle crash where somebody ran a stop sign and a couple sitting on this bike literally outside the Harley store. Oh. Yeah, and somebody hit the car, or the car went through the stop sign. It was two people in their 90s are in this car, and a couple hits this car on the side. They go flying over it. By the time I look up, there's 2 people in the air.
Wow.
And they came crashing down. And the lady's legs all busted up, and she was busted up pretty good. Some of her clothes were even ripped off, and things like that. And I mean, I've never been or considered myself as somebody who would,
but you
I'm
did
not like against blood or
no.
It's not like but there's a thing, and then all of a sudden something takes over. You just go over there, you do whatever you can to assess the situation.
Well,
call who you need to call.
I agree with you to a fault, but you know what? You're the same guy that would open the door for the lady this morning at the store, at the coffee shop. Like you held the door while the lady and her kid came in. You didn't go out first. You could have. And people do. They barge out the store and they don't. So there's you've got a certain propensity for it. Like and you can see people that don't. I mean, I've been to places where they'll walk in and they don't even, maybe it's a spatial awareness thing. I'm not so sure that it's because they're so important or they're selfish. I think it's maybe they're not really aware of the surroundings. They don't know there's somebody behind them but man, that's usually important. Like help people along the way, man. It's when I say help, I don't necessarily say you gotta stop the guy's arteries from bleeding. You can hold the bag for somebody or take let the person get their grocery bag first or get the better tomato or whatever. Like, Christ, man, like, let's
man.
let's get on with this thing, man.
That's something that seems
right?
to be
leaving big time, man. Chivalry it's a dying art, man. Like, it's a dying art, and I don't think you can be taught it. Like, it's serious, man. Serious business.
I imagine that in your I don't whether it be at your station or at another firefighters are coming in and going.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That whether they feel it was for them or not, or you felt it was for them.
Oh yeah, they don't fit in. Maybe they don't fit in quite right with the group. They want to challenge your techniques or thoughts or something, and they want to challenge that. That's all fine and dandy, And there's book smart guys too. There's guys that are very technically astute with it when it comes to firefighting practices and stuff, but practically, that's a whole different ballgame. Practical firefighting,
holding a hose and running into a fire.
Practical firefighting is a huge difference from what the books tell you and what underwriters' laboratories have tested and make sure under scientific settings. Okay, if you put the water there, then the steam puts this out and that. Yeah, well, that's all good and dandy, but the steam rises and the people upstairs are going to get killed. So there's certain things, the parameters are so much more confusing, right?
That was fascinating.
Yeah,
I never thought about that. Yeah. That I'm not a firefighter, never trained.
Yeah.
So the fire's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Water and fire makes steam.
Yeah. Instantly vaporizes.
So you hit the fire with the water.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to know where that steam's going to go.
Yeah.
Because if it goes into the apartment upstairs,
those
those people are going to be scalded.
Yeah. Roasted. Yeah, for sure.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Jesus, man, the angles.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. There's a lot of stuff going on.
I've never thought about it.
There's a lot of stuff going on. And you can move the fire when you don't want to. There's tons of that. Like, structural firefighting is they have it as a science. I mean, that's a studied science, structural firefighting. Interior firefighting is a science, man. It's been studied by the smartest minds ever. And they are still studying it. You cannot beat
Super
it. You
interesting.
cannot beat it, man. It is incredible. You might force it into the walls and you force it up the chaseways, inside the walls, you chase the fire up there, and that's making it worse. It's there's a ton to it, man. And now you're going to do this in total darkness, under total duress, conditions that are untenable for any human being, temperatures that are beyond heat that you can bear. Gets to a point where when it's so hot, no matter what you do, you cannot stand up in it. Like, it will slam you to the ground. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's a natural thing. You can't even stand up or move, or penetrate the heat. It's that hot. Your body is like not going to do it. Your body just says, no, you're laying down, or you're going to crawl out on your belly, because there's no way you're going to stand up and run out of here.
So what's the first thing that you're thinking going into a big fire like that, where everything is kind of all, the next building is only so far apart? What's your first?
Well, the only way to nail that is you got to find the start of it. Like, it's like anything. It's like a simple fire. It's in a corner of a room, and there's a simple little, small little fire this big, and it's burning. If you deal with the curtains and the walls and deal with that, the source is still there. You have to get the source. Get the source initially, and then the rest of it is just peripheral rubbish you can handle. So that's the whole secret, is to get the source. So structural firefighting, you have to get to where it started. That might not be at the front door. Like, it's raging at the front door, and the whole rooms are, the front two rooms are burning, but that's not where it starts. You got to get to where
There's a motivation somewhere in there that's getting this fire.
So, like, it's the gas coming out of the stove.
Perhaps, or it's where the initial fire is because that's where it's consuming. That's where it starts to burn, and the rest of the stuff is distant from it. It's out on the outskirts, the periphery of it. You need to get to the meat and potatoes of it.
Source.
Now, you have to get rid of this. You can't possibly get through it. So you have to get rid of this on the way through, but you still got to get to the source. And it's structural firefighting is a whole different ballgame, man. It's nasty, and it's just down and get to it. You got to push ahead and push on to get it. And if you let it go, it'll be over you and behind you, and You don't want that. You don't want to be.
Talk about nut up.
Yeah,
Holy shit,
you got to
man.
nut up, man. And you got to make sure the fellas with you are,
Well, see, that's the deal.
right? Whoever's with you, if you're pushing forward and they're pulling back, it's time. You got to go, man. You got to go.
When we had Shawnee in here, we were talking about SWAT coppers. You know, they're a team. You know that the boy off your shoulder has got your back.
100%.
And you have to know that about your team.
Oh, big time. And that's what I say about this when you question anybody. Like you're at the fire hall, that's your interview for how things are going to go at the
100%.
scene. You know what I mean? So when you're sitting around the table and you're all in the same thing and you're all laughing about the same joke and one guy's not laughing so much, wait a minute. And every time he chirps in about something, it's like, well, that's a little off topic or a little off this, or he don't like green beans. We all love green beans. Wait a minute. Like there's some, I don't know, my friend. I think you should go over to the other truck, I think you should go to the truck where the guys like the corn better than the green beans, because we're green bean guys here,
Totally.
So that's a big, huge part of it, man.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of people listening right now
And they don't
not going to get that metaphor, but I get it.
Right? And they don't.
Like, I fucking hate green beans.
Well, yeah, but there's people that say to it, like they say, well, how come that shouldn't be the way? The city, like, you can't say that the guy can't be at your hall. Well, you know what? Four guys, three of us, we come in the morning, three of us get down to business. They get the toilets clean. We get the floor clean. The hall's looking good. We're getting it all shipshape. We've been outside on the apparatus floor. Are all our gears ready to go? And this guy's texting his wife or something, like making sure that the babysitter got off okay and all this. Like,
Yeah. Get over here and be a firefighter.
like join the team, man. There's a reason why we're doing all the psychologically, no matter if you know it or not, or if anybody even planned it, but to go and clean the toilets together and get all that dirty work done, that's part of fighting a fire.
Yeah,
that is a huge part of the firefighting aspect, man.
We do the same thing in the stunt business.
Right.
I mean,
Everybody wraps the ropes. Everybody
absolutely
rigs the thing.
Absolutely. We all know that guy is not a part of the team, and I don't trust that.
Right.
Because I have people's limbs and lives at stake.
Right. You're going to do the thing, get the bag all set up for the jump and that, and he's going to be sitting there, getting his bio ready for the next
next job.
Come on, man. Like,
yeah, I mean,
right?
Everything that you have said so far, like, only now are we literally, I keep saying this only because the outside perception has got to be completely whacked. Only now we're getting to fire.
Well, it's nice. Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
And so, even me, I mean, I've never had any doubts about the courage it takes or the respect levels and the brotherhood even. But I'm learning like about 1 billion new aspects of what it means to be a fighter.
That's maybe the benefit of three guys sitting around shooting the breeze, man. I mean,
I'd say so.
Do you think has there ever been has anyone ever brought forward the thought to change the term firefighter?
Well, it used to be fireman.
Yeah, fireman.
So they've already changed it.
Yeah, because they encompass all
They've already
different-
changed it, man.
But to take in everything that you do,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
oh my
true.
God,
Like, it's well-rounded.
Half you guys are medics. Half, you do somewhat police work.
Yeah.
My God.
I don't know how like super gods would go on your credentials.
Super gods?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
like
somebody
I don't know
good,
how the
though.
badge would look.
It's pretty good.
You'd have to spell God's GAWD because
Yeah,
somebody's
true.
going to complain about
Complain
that too.
about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so when you put those things into perspective, a lot of times, and the thing with the women on the job and stuff, I would always think to myself when I sat there, and I worked with a few over the years, not directly. They were never associated on my truck, but they'd be in the hall or something. They destroyed the dynamic of the hall, first of all. Like having a woman in the hall it just wrecks it. It totally wrecks it. I don't care how butchy they are or how guy they want to be. They try so hard. Like it's a shame for them, to be honestly. I'm sad for because they got to try so much harder. They can't just be themselves and do their job. They got to try so hard to perform and come up to that expectation of the job, right? They change the dynamic of the hall just beyond measure. Like it turns into a workplace and not a fire hall. And it has to be a fire hall. It's got to be a fire hall. It's got to be 4 or 8 or how many guys are stationed there, all on the same page, ready to do it, you know? And I don't think that girls bring that to the table. I don't want to belittle
It's got to
them.
be an exception.
Well, there is exceptions for sure. And there's guys that shouldn't be there. And like we said before, the green bean, the corn guy's gone.
But you know, it's interesting what you say that. There's a study where the Army is letting women take on combat roles.
Yeah.
And the study is showing that in a group of men, and I'm not slighting anybody here,
Nope.
you know, let's just cover that.
Yep.
A group of men will go out,
Yep.
and the guy on my shoulder's got my back,
Yep.
and we do what we do.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you introduce a woman
Yep.
into the combat situation, the guys
Feel.
to protect her.
Yep. That's our nature.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
it's just human nature
yeah.
that you and I, the three of us, would go in together. Of course, we've
Yeah.
got each other's backs.
Yeah.
But we're moving forward.
But
Right.
Our brains aren't thinking of protecting
Right.
her.
That's
but now
I agree with it.
I'm sure that woman would say, "Nut up, you fucking bunch
100%
of
she would.
idiots!"
And
I don't
and
want you to do
stop
that.
acting like this,
Absolutely.
or
But that's-
I'm not going to feel like I'm welcome here.
But we're wired.
But that won't. Yeah, that doesn't negate our
situation.
natural
That's right.
inclination.
Yeah.
As is their natural inclination to nurture and protect and to to protect their.
But on the other side of the coin, though,
yeah.
there's a time when
That's
the
good.
female firefighter
Oh.
would, or cop, or
Yeah.
soldier, would step in and
Do something better.
something you'd never do.
Right. Do something better.
So-
Perhaps.
Yeah, I mean that's a better way of looking at things.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm no scientist. I don't know everything, but I mean, if
But we can't afford. I don't think we can afford that spot. They shouldn't afford it because now we used to have 4 firefighters on a truck. Now we got 3 men and 1 woman. We're affording that position of her doing her thing best that she can do occasionally. That is compromising what we were talking
that's
about
correct.
before.
yeah, totally.
If she's the 5th player, great, okay, because they do bring something to the table, right? And I mean, I've sat around a fire hall once in a while thinking, you know what? It'd be really nice to just break out the crochet and do a little crochet right now. How cool would that be? You know, we could do a little crochet with her, and we could just sort of settle our shit down, chill out a little, and really come up with a nice toque or something.
So glad you're the one that said that.
Right? So I'm just saying there are those options, man.
Yeah,
and
no.
we should welcome it, not fight it.
Of
not
course.
fight it.
And there are the professions that men suck.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
Hugely. And they shouldn't be doing it either. They
not
shouldn't
really, but yeah.
They shouldn't be doing it. And again, I don't think they shouldn't do it. I just think we should visit how we integrate them into the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean everybody's unique and has their own
Right.
way of doing things. It's just
Right.
it's just that somebody. I mean,
And is there places that people shouldn't be? Is there?
Of course.
yeah.
Is there?
Oh my
but
God.
again, like we're talking about, especially now, there's a certain perception that people have about a firefighter, and I'm sure that there are women or small guys or people who don't have the knack just to deal with the what you've been talking about, who have watched movies or read books or even
Trained perhaps for it.
whatever it might be.
That are
They
not
may
good.
just have they just might not be thinking about it as truthfully as it actually is.
I want to believe that
That's
for
it.
sure. I want to believe that for sure. And I also believe that if you're hiring other people, women in general, then what would be the problem with having the full truck of women in a certain station? Have a whole truck of women because there's whole trucks of men. So what about a whole truck full of ladies?
That can't be a bad thing.
Wouldn't it be easily recognizable of their performance? Even a whole truck of broken toys, I like to call them, like a lot of guys that don't fit in very well, but they may be great firefighters, but they're just not. They don't fit in with everybody else. Maybe you put all them on the same truck. Then what? Would we not see that within a few calls? That, well, guess what? The performance there is not really the best.
Yeah.
Or it is. Oh my God! Look how good they were.
Yeah, I'd almost bet like what you're saying.
You couldn't do that? Couldn't we do that?
If you put a whole truck of females on the next call or whatever, you may find different benefits.
Absolutely.
You may find anything.
Well, then we would find it all. That would be the watershed test, would it not?
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right.
Sure.
And don't have to listen to these, ridiculous firefighters talking about how, women are this or that, or they're no good. Oh, we'll shut that right up. We'll stop that directly by putting a truckload of the girls together and watch them perform. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Let's see it. Let's see it in action.
At the end of the day, it's not man or woman.
I don't think so.
It's who's right for the job.
Who's right for the job? 100%. Be righteous. Be righteous in everything you do. Right?
Yeah.
That should be the watchword. Be righteous.
Yeah.
But like I say, I think that I'd love to be in a position of power and say, okay, here's the thing. We've hired these people. They didn't kind of get up to this standard, but we hired them anyway. We're going to put them all on the same truck and let them do their thing. And I'll guarantee you, 4 women on a truck in a hall by themselves, after about an hour and a half, 2 hours, there'd be a big time. The chief would have to go over to that hall and sort out the cat fight. Absolutely.
Okay.
Because ladies have a propensity to be pretty angry and pretty nasty with other girls. Just saying.
Look,
I know it might be a provocative statement, but
Hey,
I'm just throwing it out
it's
there.
all good.
I'm just throwing it out
It's
there.
all good.
Right?
I'm just going to shut up because
Yeah,
I have
okay.
a woman who...
So do I.
I'm just
Motorcycles,
kidding.
huh?
Yeah, motorcycles, huh? Yeah. I'm just throwing it out there, boys. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, but anyone, anyone
Yes.
in their right mind listening should understand what is being, what is really being said here. There's a very true statement that sits over top of this entire conversation.
Yes, performance-oriented firefighters. That's who I want. When my house is on fire, I want your best.
I just want a firefighter.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually have to be a man or a woman at all. It just has to be a firefighter who is going to do what is needed
to help me and my family.
And dispense the right amount of energy to accomplish the goal at hand.
Not only do what's needed, have the physical capabilities
to do it.
To do what's needed.
Yeah.
Completely.
And if they can't extricate you, another firefighter or the citizen from a burning room, if you cannot drag that guy, whoever is out, they shouldn't be there.
No, it's
100%.
They're in the wrong spot.
They're in the wrong spot.
And we can find other spots for you. There's plenty of other stuff. There's planning and research. There's fire education if you're passionate about it. And there's all kinds of things.
That's right.
There's all kinds of avenues. Just spare us the body count.
In our business, no one can do everything.
No, 100%.
And so I have to. Sometimes you get a double for an actor, but sometimes you need 3 doubles for that actor because everyone has a different skill set.
Yeah, driving double.
But the character,
martial arts.
that's right. The character of
Is
the
the same
movie
as
does
one,
it all.
is one.
But no one stunt performer can do it all, so you get 3 doubles.
Yeah.
So sometimes, just because you're a stunt performer doesn't mean you can do this.
No, that credential doesn't blanket
That's
you.
correct.
Yeah.
And as a coordinator, I don't hire that person.
Right.
But by the same token, as a firefighter, not everyone can do all the jobs required of a firefighter.
Well, the other thing is we don't talk about numbers.
Right.
We don't talk about just numbers. It's not about, again, not about gender.
Yeah.
It's about the numbers. There are more men over 200 pounds than there are women. Mm-hmm. And if there were more women over 200 pounds, we wouldn't have this talk.
No.
And I mean, even in our stunt industry, from where we are, even just racially, there's a certain amount of this type of person just in Toronto. If we have to go looking for another type of person for a series or a movie, sometimes we have to stretch the
boundaries?
distance. Yeah, the boundary as to where we're looking, only because the numbers don't line up. It's not about...
But what's fun about what you're saying is if I need a particular race or look, I have the luxury of going to a distant city and flying someone in. Whereas you got 4 people on a truck, you don't have the luxury of flying somebody in because there's an emergency down the street.
Right.
True.
Time is of the essence. We need to
call the guys in New York and get them up here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one. New York, man. We went to the 9/11 tribute for that. Oh my God.
I wanted to bring up 9/11.
The year after that, man. Oh my God. What a life-changing episode for me that was. Like, wow.
So what is that? Describe that.
After it settled down. So I don't think it was it wasn't the year anniversary. I want to say it was probably the second year after it, because the first year they were still digging through the building, I think, the first year.
Yeah.
So the second year they had a big to-do, they asked everybody to come down for the memorial. And I'm telling you, there was, if there's never a time in your life when you feel more humble, proud of your choices that you've made in your career, all those things, man. When we pulled up to that was mind-boggling, man. Like, there was people from all over the planet, and they were all the same as us, and you couldn't speak the language of some of these people, and it was just like hugging. The brotherhood, the sisterhood.
You spoke the language of firefighters.
The sisterhood of it was just so tight, man. Like, it was weird. It was like being in the room. It was like being on, and it wasn't even a room because it was too big, but being out on the street with like clones of yourself. Like, you were looking at as far as the eye could see of you. Like, felt like that to me.
That's
like, I
neat.
looked down that street and there was just a sea of dress uniforms.
Whereabouts
And
was this?
it was right downtown New York, we were there. We went
Okay.
right, it was right by 9/11, right by the site. And they had a big parade. And
So all the
march-
firefighters in Toronto were in New York at the time, and all the fires in Toronto were higher than they've ever
guys
been. Okay.
guys on shift, off shift were there.
Okay.
Guys
Yeah.
took time, but it was, I'm telling you, man, it was like nothing you could ever imagine. It was so, and then of course being that reason. It's one thing to go to a baseball tournament with all the guys, baseball,
Sure.
firefighting baseball tournament is one thing, but that was like, you're paying homage to these poor people who not only, risked it beyond the measure of risk, man, for such a stupid reason too. That's the worst of it all, right? Like a terrorism situation. I get risking yourself because somebody had an accident. They've accidentally started a fire, and now they're at jeopardy, and you go in and help them. That's great. That's what our business should be. Not going to it because somebody's doing it
A deliberate act
intentionally.
of violence.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, that's terrible,
Just
man.
screws it totally up. Like that just wrecks the whole mood for sure. So it was, it was pretty spectacular, man. It was pretty spectacular. And then seeing the people, we went to the fire halls just in that area, and all the families were there, and how strong and how just crazy strong these people were, to have lived through that and put up with the loss, and they're still there hugging us and welcoming us there. And,
Well, it's probably a similar strength to the guy that's in half.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of strength. You've been through it all, and you have to be able
do
to
it.
handle this.
You
Or
just
you,
do it. Like you think, man, what power these people have. It's just phenomenal. It was quite shocking. Quite shocking.
you ever wonder what it might have been like had it happened in your own
Here?
city?
I want to say it would be probably absolutely exactly what happened in New York, man. It just catches you by the balls, man, and you got to you got to do what you got to do. You got to send your people to do it, right?
Now, this is a really good question. What you mentioned, is the Toronto or any fire
Equipped for it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was saying to another guest that I work with a lot of bomb squad coppers.
Yep.
On the SWAT team.
Yep.
And it's always really disconcerting when you ask them, "Are you busy?" And they go, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
So, because we don't see that every day either.
Right.
We, as normal citizens, we don't experience that.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the CN Tower.
Yeah.
Which would be a really, really, really good target if somebody wanted a lot of attention.
I think so.
So it's like is the
Capable?
Toronto? No, are they prepared for a massive terrorist action similar to? Because we were told about a story how they put down a terrorist action
Yeah.
from inside our country.
Yeah.
in the city of Toronto.
Yeah.
It was a concerted effort by a number of agencies, and they
Squashed it.
Squashed
They
it.
stopped it. Yeah. Yeah.
But had they not,
Yeah. Yeah. It's maybe good that they did, because I don't know if any of the services are like,
I
how
mean,
could
was
you
New
be
York
prepared?
for it?
No, not a chance.
But I guarantee New York has now trained their people.
Oh yeah, and we did too.
Okay.
Like after 9/11, it was game
You
on.
upped the shit out of the game.
They upped their game big time, man, and we took lessons from it. We do now, we always did with the fire department. If there was big incidents that happened, like bizarre fires or situations that happened through the world, for goodness sake, for like all over the world, they would trade the information. Like they would be fast to trade it. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
And
that's
that was
cool.
That was by the union and by certain organizations in the fire department, not necessarily the city of Toronto authorized, but you know what I mean? It was departments like, groups of people in the fire department, training division and stuff like that would pass that on and bring it to light, like say, like, this is what happened and let's change some techniques. We were constantly training. Like, that's another thing that people, I think, don't really realize. We're constantly training. Like our days at the fire hall are are, if not training in the hall, they're training at the training centers. Like we're training. They don't let the city of Toronto don't want you sitting on the couch either. They want you fresh. So it's in their better interest to train. The union's responsible to train. The city of Toronto is responsible to have trained firefighters. We have to make the grade. Like we have to make the standard. So yeah, it's definitely a situation. And we would discuss many a times. Training episodes would change and say, you know what, this is a technique we've done in the past. Let's change this. They'd introduce new programs all the time. So again, with interior firefighting, structural firefighting, they'd say, you know what, we come up with a new theory. We've looked at it from all angles, and New York's adopting this theory, and San Francisco is adopting. The big fire departments would adopt these new theories, and they say, well, how about guys try it? Try these new techniques and see if you like them, and see if it works for you guys in your situation, right? And change them, tweak them if they have to, because every situation is different. So
Sure.
You guys, San Francisco is not dealing with cold temperatures and stuff. So you sort it out with your ways. Do what you got to do around your place, and
Are there cities that are suffering
because of training?
Yeah, lacking training. That's another thing, and I would bring up Sean again. I mean, he's in kind of a similar world.
Yeah.
He talked about how Toronto was one of the top 3 SWAT forces, police forces. Is there a similar thing in fire? And are there cities that are suffering because?
Well, I'll tell you
nothing?
I'll tell you what happened with Toronto. Toronto City proper, and I was hired there, and I'm obviously biased about it, but a great historical fire department. They had lots of fires, lots of people. It's the biggest, Toronto, the city of Toronto was there long before Scarborough and North York and all the boroughs.
Sure.
So Toronto was
All the wisdom.
They were the wisdom, and right or wrong, but they had the experience. And with firefighting, experience is key. The more you do it, the better you get. And I'm just gonna throw that out there. You can get lazy and complacent and all those things too, but the more you do, the more you see, the more information you have to be better, whether you do it or not. So I'll put that down on a blanket statement. Scarborough, North York, all those departments, they were newer departments, so they came in newer times. They were established by newer people. The paramilitary structure wasn't quite the same, because Toronto was older. It started after the First World War, so they had everybody who was there was ex-soldiers, and then it just grew from there. And our big hiring practice, like our big hiring take-ons, were obviously after the war. So all those key times where they were getting great people back from the forces that had already a military background. Scarborough and them, not so much. Scarborough were hiring, where Scarborough was like in the 70s and that when they started, in the early 60s, and when they started, it was more like, garbage men. They were looking for garbage men, gardening guys to do the city, works, and then firemen. Oh yeah, we need firemen too. So they hired, the mentality and the practices were not so paramilitary.
Did Toronto have a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Did you
cross contaminate? Well, what happened was they amalgamated. I don't know the exact date, but Toronto amalgamated, the cities amalgamated. So North York, Scarborough, East York, all amalgamated into one department, like one city, right? Toronto. Like they still call it Scarborough and they still call it North York, but they're really not. They're all governed by Toronto, City of Toronto, right? That's how it is now. They have their own mayors and their own thing, but they're under a blanket of the City of Toronto. And when they amalgamated, that was the worst, for me, that was the worst thing that ever happened to the fire department. Because they killed it by bringing in all these other lesser departments. And I'll say lesser for sure. They were lesser departments.
But it's like, I mean, we obviously, if I'm going to school, I want a good teacher.
Yeah.
I don't want to, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, what happened then was because of that, then they started breaking up all the Toronto guys stayed strong and was like, we want to be in Toronto, we're not. And they started moving everybody around to try to assimilate everybody. And it was a disaster it was the worst thing that ever happened to Toronto. That whole amalgamation thing, and I'm not just saying the fire department, the whole amalgamation thing was the most costliest thing that they've ever done to the city of Toronto. Like they said, well, they were doing it for the reason of financial. We're going to buy toilet paper for every city, like for all our, they need toilet paper, they need supplies. So if we amalgamate everybody together, we can buy one shipment of toilet paper, all that thing can be bought.
I see what they're doing,
right?
but they could have done it perhaps differently.
They killed it, man. They killed it. And again, Scarborough had a lot of politics between their fire department. I'm not sure about North York and that. I didn't really, but Scarborough for sure. Like Scarborough were militant against the city of Scarborough in their fire department. We're not cutting the grass. We're not taking care of the fire department. Oh man, it was ridiculous, the shit that went through there. Like, and now, so we adopted all those, we adopted all that into one city umbrella, and it really hurt. It took I think the fire department's probably still fighting through that. Like it was disastrous, and the equipment and just the cross training and stuff like that. It was just, they didn't do things even close to what we did, and it was always a kind of running gag, if you pulled up to a call on the, and you were from Toronto and you pulled up to the call on the outskirts, well, you came from the longest distance and you're still the first ones in and you still got the job done and you got cleaned up and you guys are rolling hoses and gone, and these guys are still trying to get their stuff together, get their boots on, and it was kind of a laughing stock at the time, and it wasn't far from the truth.
This must
happen. Wasn't far from the truth.
This must happen everywhere.
It surely does, of course. And I'm sure that if you talk to guys in New York, they say the guys in Schenectady or the guys down there, they're rubbish. Those guys are garbage. There's always that clashing.
But what's interesting about that is this, that at the end of the day, you're all firefighters.
True enough.
And when you all met in New York,
yeah, we were.
It's all
we
hugs.
were, for sure. And it was all hugs. And, then you can't rest on your laurels. You all have your uniform on. You look the same. You're feeling the same emotionally. So you have to be.
Well, I imagine that something like that New York thing must have also inspired
huge.
a lot of young guys who perhaps feel like they're not pulling their weight, or,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It would have been a great motivator for sure. Like, if you've seen that and thought, I'm not doing enough with my life, I'm losing the McDonald's.
Man, they've got to feel that.
Yeah, they got to. Yeah, you got to. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Especially if you have a propensity in your if you are kind of a caring person, and you're gonna be all over that. I think it's a huge part of it. Like caring, being concerned about others is a huge part.
My respect level of fire after this conversation, firefighters is gone sky high. I mean, I've always felt that way. One of our best friends, used to be the fire chief of the city here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I did. I hope, and again, that's why obviously we connected. It was like, let's get some things off our chest, and I'm glad we. I'm glad we can, man. I'm glad we can in this in an easy form where nobody's judged, and.
Well, we're not judged until you look at the comments under YouTube video.
Right.
I'm judging the tequila.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah. How is that out of 10?
It's 10.
Yo, this is fantastic. You're a little slower than
I'm
us.
gotta be slow.
Because you got some riding to do.
He's on a scooter.
Yeah, man. I pedaled my bike over here, so
Yeah, I'm good.
I don't want to crash. I don't want to be one of those guys I picked up. That's another thing too. Bikes are dangerous as hell, man. You don't come off them very nice. I've yet to see somebody. Well, I came off myself and scuffed myself up a little bit.
Same.
Yeah, Andrew's come off a couple
Yeah.
of times.
I had to lay my bike down.
I know. Yeah, and that's quite a decision.
Yeah,
That's always a decision.
But you know what the best
And it
part
was
of
a
it is?
decision.
He got to make a decision.
Right.
Yeah,
True,
that's the thing. I mean, I was lucky. I'm lucky. I have like just the background.
Oh, the background.
The stunt.
The role.
The stunt industry is one thing, and some of the other things I do is just it all kind of comes together. And, you know, when I had to come off that bike, I was literally sliding sideways. Somebody pulled out on me, and I was an inch. I was an inch from the bumper. I was just lucky that the person that pulled out actually kept going and didn't stop or stutter.
Because you would
Be under it.
Yeah, then I'd be under it or over it or whatever it is. And I actually had a moment. I sat there like on a sliding bike going, you know,
when do I leave?
Pull, post, ditch, fence, post, pull.
Yeah.
You know,
See,
and I went.
that's the stunt guy. He's looking for his out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. You know, and then I knew, like, I tried to give some gas and pull that wheel back, and it went like the other way.
You're going to stand it up.
Completely the other
Oh,
way.
you're going to stand it back up.
Yeah,
Sure,
and I was like,
sure.
for fuck's sake. So I literally just said, never mind, I'm not going to make it out. So I got to do the best for me.
Yeah.
And I slid on my back. Fortunately, I had it got a little cool, and I just put my leather on. And I slid down the road probably, I don't even know, 100 feet, something like that. I just kept going and going. And I went right through some roadkill, which was disgusting. I had blood and fur up my back. But the guy who, this is just the best part of the story. I could have told the story better, but when the guy got out of his truck to come over and make sure I was okay, my buddy who I was with riding short behind me was kind of flipping out on the guy. But the guy, I had to stop my friend because the guy was obviously hurting. He didn't want to do what he did.
No.
He was at the edge of tears, and he told us that his brother happened to be the head of motorcycle safety of Ontario or something like that.
So he was in for it.
It was like the irony had to play out, or this wouldn't have made sense.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway,
Wow.
I was very lucky
man.
to be me, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those skills will come to
And help.
come to you. Yeah, they'll come to you naturally too, right?
Oh yeah. No, it's good.
Crazy man, crazy.
Do you want to say anything inspirational to maybe some new firefighters or somebody who's trying to get in the game that just maybe doesn't have their whole
Thing mapped out.
yeah?
Well, there is a lot of credentials you need now. I understand that. There's a huge amount of credentials you need prior to being hired. And I think it's across the board. Again, I'm speaking for Toronto and departments that I know around Toronto. You need a ton of credentials now. And what they're doing is the cities are now passing off the responsibility of the pre-screening and predisposing the firefighters by getting credentials from colleges. And they're leaving the onus on those places to train you somewhat, right? So it's all the background training that you need and testing you need before you can be a firefighter. Used to be the city did it. All the cities, when I say cities, I mean all the cities and municipalities, they would do their own aspect of hiring. So you would apply, they would put you through the rigors, and then they would select you. Now it's more, you bring your credentials in already pre-applied. You know, you're tested and certified that you can do these things. And they take those and then they work on that. They'll train you, of course, some more for your local situation, but you have those generic and standard training or credentials.
So people actually go to college
And firefighting 101
before they apply. Particular.
And you have all the cities will say we need a certified DZ license. So you have to come up and do that yourself. We want first aid training and certain levels of first aid training. All these done. We want you to have certain goals met with firefighting training. So there's fire sciences, there's fire attack, and you know all the different scenarios of firefighting. They would be trained for and tested on, and already have credentials. It's hard to get and it's expensive. I think that can run into thousands and thousands of dollars. So most of the people that are going to want to be firemen now have to kick up. So not only do you have to sort of want that as a career choice, but you have to sort of financially kick up. Much like anybody, if you want to be.
But it shows that their investment.
It shows that they're invested. So there's a bit of sweat equity. So they're already predisposed to being part of the team. And I think that's good. I think it's really good, especially if the credentials are good,
Now, are there guys working in this city where we are now that you'd go, come on over to Toronto? Is it?
Yeah. Do you recruit ever? Like from
a lot of guys, I don't think they do it the cities wouldn't do it, and the fire department wouldn't go out canvassing, but there are guys who would do it, amongst themselves. They would say, oh, you know what, I like the big city action or whatever, I've done a couple of years in Cambridge. I like to do the
I
big
imagine
city.
you want that guy to some degree.
No,
Somebody who's
Most guys do.
seen some shit.
Is it
and
a
then-
transfer
yeah, I bet.
situation?
No.
It's I quit here and I
That's
apply
right.
there.
It's a city organization.
And I imagine that there are some trucks around here
Yeah.
that guys are just not inspired. They just go,
we have the best
these
trucks."
guys are,
Yeah.
leh.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So they gotta move. They want to move.
They want to move, and
Same
let's
with being a
face it,
doctor in the right
Yeah,
hospital and all
sure.
that stuff.
And any young cowboy wants to. You want to ride you want to do it.
Yeah,
you
you
know what
wanna
I mean?
hit the
It depends
biggest,
on the ladder you want to climb.
Well, this is it. There's probably guys sitting in little, smaller outside departments saying, pretty good. I can do 30 years of this, man. Get some get some fishing in this afternoon and whatever I got to do. There's probably, let's face it, there's people competent and comfortable wherever they are, right? But I'm sure there's probably young and old guys out here. It's a young man's sport, man. Like the whole job is a young man's sport to me. Like anybody who wouldn't want to be down there kicking it. Yeah. I mean, you want the experience. You want the thrill, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from that. I did it for many good reasons, but I also did it for self-centered reasons too. Like there's nothing better, nothing better than whipping around in that truck. There's nothing better than being 100 feet up in the air on the end of a ladder in the middle of January, pouring water on a fire, man. Like who gets to do that kind of stuff?
Now I wanted to touch that on
Yeah,
earlier.
you know.
You mentioned cold. San Francisco doesn't contend with the cold weather.
Oh.
Can you imagine going out and fighting a fire in
Yeah.
sub-zero temperatures and everyth's freezing?
It's
Man, I
it's
don't know.
unimaginable.
How does that work? If you have a pumper, is it heated?
No. So the only heat that is generated is the friction, and there's tons of it. So you have to keep the truck running. You can't shut a line down, even if you're outside. So we'd be outside all night, say pouring water on a building, or they'd shut trucks down. Because what we used to do a lot of times, we'd sort of chain the trucks. We'd link the trucks together. So one truck would be the initial pumper from the hydrant, and that would pump to another truck, and that truck would pump it further up.
Oh, wow.
You'd use them as hydrants, like remote hydrants. And if you were a truck that was sitting and wasn't operating, then you'd need to let the thing pump water. So you'd pump it and just blow it out the side. And of course, then initially around the truck is warm. There's enough heat around it, but then a perimeter around the truck gets icy. And try working on a skating rink. Like, I mean, it's
totally.
the whole area now. So, and you're pouring gallons, hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water into a building. It's coming out and it's all over the place, and the place is just frozen. And it's like, it's the most unnatural.
Do you guys hear
situation.
stories? Do you guys hear stories from around the world or from around anywhere? And kind of go, holy fuck. Glad
the
that's
challenges
not us,
of the
or
challenges.
The
they have?
challenges, yeah.
We probably do. It's probably not. I mean, there's probably forums and all sorts of stuff now. I mean, there's
True,
probably
true.
crazy
Sure.
blogs,
Different time.
crazy blogs and stuff. I mean,
I would think that the other people are learning from this.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh my
I
God.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. This would be the forum. I
this
suppose.
would be the forum, right?
Like you're putting out a fire. Everything's freezing.
Freezing solid. And then try going up a ladder. Hey, let's say you're up the ladder and everything's frozen. Now you got to come down. That's a challenge. Like everything's a challenge.
Everything's getting wet,
soaked, ice,
overspray. And,
pouring, like totally covered in ice, man. Your suit, you can't bend your arms. The suits, your gloves are soaking wet, man. How do you do an hour or 2 hours of that? I tell you, my feet are not the same as they were when I was 25. My feet are to my knees are like, they're cold, man. They're cold. They're cold all the time.
Those babies up here onto the table to
Warm
show
them up.
us.
Show us the
Well,
frostbitten.
What have we?
Frostbitten. I cut them off at
Couple
my
of polar
knees. They're
bears.
just wood. It's just wood from my knee down. But no, my feet, the nerves and stuff in my feet, yeah, man, crazy. Not good. Like my feet are always cold, man.
have you ever had to put a forest fire?
No, we've had lots of grass fires.
Grass fires?
Oh my God, man, tons of grass fires. They get away on you by the side of the highway. Dufferin and DuPont was terrible because we had the trains, the cargo trains going through.
Right.
And they would set those places. They'd set the trainways like beside the rails. The train, the grass.
That brown grass.
Oh man, now today, like
Why?
a day like
Why?
today.
What's the train doing?
Putting the brakes on or whatever, and the axle,
And all the sparks and the.
they'd be phoning, oh man, the field's on fire, you better get out here. Crazy stuff like that. And I mean, a field on fire is not yeah, it's not something that's really dangerous, perhaps, until it starts to get into the backyards and starts
Sure.
to get up into the residential areas. You know, some of it, you cordon it off and let it go. You know,
My wife went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee,
Yeah.
I don't know how many years ago. And as they're pulling into the city, the sky's kind of smoky. And her friend says, "Oh, is that why they call them the Smoky Mountains?" And Rhonda said, "Well, maybe, but it doesn't look like the
This isn't
same
normal."
color. It's not normal to her because
Yeah.
she's been there a million times."
Yeah.
And she says, "There's something wrong. Like,
Yeah.
it's not normal." And the next day or 2 days later, they had to evacuate because the Smoky Mountains were on
we're on
fire.
fire. Wow.
Yeah, that was not long ago. That was probably 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was
or
a few years ago. And
Wow.
the fire started on the other side of the mountains,
Yeah.
so the town didn't see it.
Yeah.
And somebody didn't release that it was actually on fire because they thought they could contain it. And they
Right.
couldn't.
Right.
And they just happened to leave 12 hours before
Wow.
people were evacuated.
Yeah.
And that's-
The
but
forest fire is, crazy technology on its own. Like,
I hear trees explode.
they do. If you've ever really seen, like, and that's another thing. Most people, little bonfire or something, they haven't seen really much in the way of fire. It is a formidable force. Like, people have no concept of really what it can do, man. It's incredible. It's
Well,
incredible.
I saw the movie Backdraft.
And you know what? I'd like to take all the movies and sort of wrap them up in a big bag and throw them away because it's probably hurt the firefighting.
Oh man,
No,
I
there's a
don't
picture of
doubt
me on
that
fire
at
right
all.
behind you.
There you go. Like,
Yeah, he's been on fire how many times?
179.
so you can well imagine what that'd be like without gear. If
Oh
that,
my God, yes. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like the heat, the intensity, the just
Be
all
insane.
of it. It's bonkers, man. And I used to like Rob Lowe as an actor and all that kind of stuff. Now Chicago Fire, it's terrible, man. Like Backdraft.
I'll tell you my Rob Lowe story after
the guy's got his coat open in Backdraft, saving the kid. It's not like that. When you're in a fire, it is just dark and there's a little glow, maybe that's all you get, and it's just so bad, man.
Listen, Les,
but it wouldn't make
when
it wouldn't make a good film,
Wait,
obviously.
no.
when you're in a movie, it's not how it works, okay?
I know, I get that, I understand it, but
Your face ain't
Firefighting is
pretty,
bringing reality
but-
into everything.
yeah, but you know what? If you're in the movie game, let's make it close. Like, give
I
the guys
agree.
a break.
I agree.
Give the guys a break, man. Show it how it is, right? The best. I would say to anybody listening, the best thing if you want to really see the world of firefighting. And I mean, I've only touched on it, but if you really want to get the best focus on firefighting, is watch Tacoma Fire. If you've never seen that series, watch Tacoma Fire. Because
Tacoma Fire.
Tacoma Fire is exactly what firefighting's all about.
Now, is that a dramatic series or is it a
It's
documentary?
a comedy.
Oh, is it?
It's a huge comedy.
That's
it's
hilarious.
And it is the funniest. The guys who did it are firefighters that wrote it and directed it. And the guys they have, if you guys have never seen it, I'm surprised you haven't because you're sort of cutting edge with that stuff. You watch Tacoma Fire and you'll know what it's all about. It's the secret of firefighting. It is just,
Really?
that's exactly what
brilliant.
it's like. Exactly what it's like.
It's like for police, Reno 911 is obviously
Very close,
probably
very
the
close to it.
closest.
It's just,
Never mind.
yeah,
And for the stunt business,
Yeah.
Hooper.
Hooper, yeah. See?
Absolutely.
See? So, yeah, the ridiculousness, it borders on ridiculousness, but it's on truth.
Love it.
Yeah, the truth is, it's
Well,
great.
okay. Speaking of comedy,
Yeah.
have you ever had a fuck up or a mix up or something that
You went to the wrong fire?
An error of comedies.
has there ever been an error? Even if it's not funny, has
Yeah.
there ever been a real bad you
Error.
went, well, this didn't work out.
There's been a lot of times where your first, so we don't have the ability to have errors. So your first initial run at it is like unsuccessful as planned. So you see something, you quickly make a plan, and then you deal with the plan, you execute the plan.
Crazy
And-
stuff, man.
And as the plan goes along, you go, we're not doing any better here. We're making it worse. And you might have on a fire scene, if it was a large enough fire scene, you might have several different companies, like several different trucks that are, their perspective, doing their work, but they're maybe not making it better for you. So
I see.
sometimes you're fighting. There is a bit of a challenge. So there's a bit of radio work, can you just tone that down a
I
notch?
imagine the bigger the fire, the more the trucks.
Right. So, you get a bunch of different guys. And here we have a bunch of different mindsets too. Although we all are a fireman and we all have some training, degree of training, we all have our ways of doing things. So those are kind of different from, because there's practical training and then there's practical application of the training. So you take the training, and you guys know, it's the same thing in stunts. There's a way to do things, but sometimes you can't do the left-hand shoulder roll because you're going to hit the fence. So
Correct.
the right-hand shoulder roll or no shoulder roll at all. So
Correct.
there's
Sure.
as it rolls, you play your thing. And that's exactly the firefighting thing. You have to change your technique along the way. So now you sort of throttle it back, hopefully not to anybody's dismay, You don't want to start sort of halfway through a residential fire where there's people still up in the room. You don't want to start to have to rejig things, right? You got to fight through them and solve the problem. So that's a huge part of it. And so the onus on you to make the proper decision at the right times are key, man. Like those are crucial, man. Like those are crucial. So you got to just do what you got to do. Like that's when things do get, out of the book and you start doing things that are, wow, that's kind of, whoa, that's sketchy, like, who's rappelling down a hose from the roof to get to the next window? Like, really? That's not in the book, So there's stuff that you got to come up with. Like, you just got to solve it, man. You got to solve it. And then you got to have guys who are willing to join your thoughts, right? This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? You don't have time to discuss it.
That goes back to the team.
That goes back to the team. It's like, I'm doing it. So
four guys are all one mind.
That's right. And what I used to do, what was effective for my career too, was I would do it. I would just do it. And hopefully somebody's coming with you. And if there was somebody close enough, I would grab them and they would be coming whether they wanted to or not. Same as the push into the fires and stuff.
But by the same token, that guy, when you grab him, pull him on, he goes, okay, we're in.
Yeah. And I've had some guys digging their heels in. I've dragged a few people into places they didn't want to go, but I wasn't going alone. And, I needed them, so they were coming.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's
and it's
cool.
true. I mean, it's, and there was places I've been to too, where the guy in front of me was going and I'm like, this is getting wicked hot. And we're on our bellies. And it's like, you're still going? Okay. They're like, all right, you're ahead of me. So you must have some sense of there's something, whatever you're doing, you think is right. I'm going to back you. Like
100%.
Right.
That's
you
what
can't pull out.
Right.
Like that. There is no choice of pulling out. And I felt that. I don't know if that's across the board, but I certainly felt it.
But you must see when somebody's doing something wrong.
Well, if it's wrong, that's a different story.
Then you would grab them, pull them out, and say, we got to
That's right.
Sometimes you don't discover that it's wrong until you're halfway there.
Right. And when you're halfway there, the only way that you know it's right is you both come out and go, "Whew, that scared the shit out of me, but we nailed it." That's when it's right. And there are other times where you didn't, you wouldn't be here today to tell the story. And there's been accidents and people have lost their lives at the game. That's sure. It's exactly how it is. Or they've hurt themselves in such a way that they're not doing it anymore.
Yeah, same in our game.
Lots of regrets, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is, the nature of the business, man. Like,
and I imagine most of the time you can say to yourself, "Wow, that didn't have to happen."
It didn't have to. Exactly. And we're gonna, you know what? We know what we're gonna do the next time, right? We know what we're gonna.
What's
do.
interesting about what you just said there is that in our business, we've lost friends, and we have friends who have been hurt to the point where they will never work physically again as a stunt performer.
Yeah.
But I've always said that 90% of the safety of any stunt is the coordinator hiring the right person. And it goes back to you guys.
It's your read, right? You got to read.
A lot of it's been preventable.
Yeah, but,
I mean,
but it goes
shit
back
happens,
to hiring the right people for the job.
100%. Because now you're in that deep, you're dragging somebody in, and they don't want to be there, and they're fighting you to get out. That's it. It's over, man. Like, how do you proceed with that? Like, you're not going to get the coverage you need, right? You're not going to get the backing.
So when you go into a building or a house, do you ever question humanity based on on what you see? A father lets his kid, a father wants out, or I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's probably I'd say that happens a lot of times. Yeah, those are super extenuating circumstances. Like you can't, you can be the best of who you are, and then when shit happens, you're the first one out the window. It's like,
You know,
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
George
Like,
Costanza
you'll
pushed
climb.
the
You'll
woman
climb
out of
over
the
the
way.
lady, man. Like, you know, you'll do it. Like, some people will do it. I don't know how you live with it. I guess you end up living, and they don't. Then you can live with it. I don't know. It's huge, man. That's your call at the time. I think it's like everything. It's like the bike thing, like the sliding the bike. You know, do you stay? Do you go? There's a time. And if you make the right call, it's a success. If you don't,
Like, to me, I'd
nobody
like to
hears about
think
it.
I'd like to think that I would I'd be
Help?
the man about it, and and help.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that I would, but you got to wonder if,
yeah.
if
Well, then you're putting your life. You're paying. You're putting your money down. You're saying I don't care. The the kids are getting out of the building, and I'm good.
Yeah,
If I get out, I get, and if I don't, I don't.
yeah.
Right?
I think you already know.
Yeah. You think
I
you
think
do.
so,
I think
too.
you do. I think you do. And
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And again, maybe when that's happening, maybe it would change you. Because I know I've been in places where I thought, you think, oh yeah, I'm good, and you go, wow, man, this is horrifying. Like, this is getting to a point where it's really getting to the end here, right? Like, this is not. I'm not proceeding any further.
Wow,
regardless of the cost. I'm not proceeding any further. I think it's maybe happened to me on 2 occasions, and I sucked it up and just did keep going. But,
Yeah, but
you think about it.
I don't think. I think that's just a good choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right.
It's
Yeah.
not. It's not a. I don't have the balls.
Yeah.
I can't nut up for this one.
Yeah.
It's not that.
No.
It's just making a good
Educated choice, right? You've seen it before. You've been around that, and you go, man, another 5 degrees or 10 degrees. It's the hottest I've ever had. Like, I remember that one. That was super hot. This is super hotter. So you go, wow, man. Like, how much can you take?
But it
right?
goes
How
back to
much-
that accident that you had.
Yeah.
You say, well, the older fellow was hanging out of this
Yeah,
car.
yeah.
Well, you can see
Yes.
I can't do anything for him.
Yeah.
So at that juncture,
Yeah.
when you can't go any further because of the heat and the fire,
You're
you're going, I
I'm
can't
good.
do
That's right.
anything.
Yeah, I can't.
But
Yeah.
also, it does the city no good for the future if you're
If
gone.
you did, that's correct.
That's true. Oh yeah. No, yeah.
Sure.
There's no win. And then there's that whole, how do you keep all the rest of it in behind you, your family, your friends, your this, your world, your stuff, my motorbikes, who's going to get my bikes? Like all that shit. Well, like,
I'm available.
yeah, like you know what I mean? Like, what about all that?
Yeah.
That's got to be a heavy burden you're taking that burden in with you too, right? Like,
Yeah.
Big time, man.
You know.
Well, you got to think about your own people.
right. Like,
You know, you got a personal life.
yeah,
and
yeah.
You're only a human, right?
True, but you know what? The problem is you've been given the cape. So when you get
I
the
love
cape,
that.
man.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah.
It's only kryptonite that can stop you. So short of kryptonite, you're going.
They must be doing something with technology that gets you guys out of there.
Stuff is getting better for sure.
Yeah.
And our lifespans are longer. They're the breathing apparatus is getting better. Of course, all that stuff gets better and better every day.
Yeah, yeah.
They've got the stuff now with the heat sensors in it, and oh man, we got great equipment.
Heat
I can only
sensors.
imagine.
Oh yeah, there's heat sensors and stuff.
kinda weird.
And when it starts squealing, you're not going to last much longer. Your gear's going to give up, so you better get going, right?
But at some point, they're not going to need guys like you who are like, fuck it. At some point, it's gonna be okay to have whatever
Robots.
just normal guy,
just
whatever,
wear-
because his uniform's gonna protect him anyway.
Yeah.
Or, he,
You know what? Maybe be nicer to do sprinkler systems in every facility.
right, handle the location, not
Right,
the firemen,
not the people, man.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be great if they said, you know what, we're dropping our fire department down to, instead of 3,000 people, 1,500 people, but we're mandating that everybody's sprinklers are replaced. There's a sprinkler in every room of your house. It's mandatorily done, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? We'll never see a fire again. It'll
But
be detected.
that ruined my Xbox,
Yeah,
though,
it
and
would.
all the saved games.
Yeah, see, that
I
gets
don't
wet.
know,
They can wrap that stuff though. They can wrap it, poly wrap it, and it'll be good. It'll be protected.
Okay,
They can do it.
Okay.
They have the technology.
you got me now.
They can unfire it. Yep.
Okay, I'd consider this sprinkler thing.
Sprinkler thing. Yeah. No. I mean, there's lots of ways. There's lots of things you can do. Right.
Anyway,
Maybe
Wow.
smarten people up too. That might be a good thing. Right. Common sense. They could reintroduce that back into our gene pool.
Oh, buddy.
That'd be
Oh,
good.
buddy.
That'd be
No,
super good.
if you watch the news, it's not happening.
It's not happening. No, it's not. It's getting worse. But they could. Maybe put it in the water or something. but it's
fascinating.
I wish.
Maybe.
Well, I for one am incredibly impressed how funny this podcast was.
Yeah, it was funny. No, really, this was a bit of a heavy.
It was heavy, but
no,
listen, you got
informative,
to. You can't
instructive.
you can't laugh at the truth, man. The truth is the truth. So
Well, the firefighting business is a heavy business.
It's a heavy business. Not to say we don't have a laugh. Tacoma 911 if you want some laughter.
Hell
but,
yeah.
I will watch it.
Yeah, but it's pretty serious shit. I like to get my point across, man. You don't want to. I don't want to make too much light of it.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Les.
Yeah.
Sign the table, man.
Oh, nice.
It just don't sign it over Kim's there, right there.
He's the guy. He's number one.
No, he's number two.
He's actually number two.
Oh, Kim. Yeah.
We got to get the other. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
do
just
do
up
whatever you
beside
want,
your
wherever you
glass
want.
there, that'd be awesome. Up beside your glass.
Or right where he tells
Look
you.
at what he's doing.
There we go.
Tracing around the glass. That's hilarious.
Right
Thanks,
on.
Les. That's awesome.
Yeah, and good idea on this tequila. It's really good. I want to say the name on, but I guess we
Yeah,
can't.
it's on.
Oh,
I shouldn't.
thanks for that, man. Thanks for that.
Les, thanks, man.
That's a nice way to bring your people on board with a little
Cheers, brother.
sip. That's pretty damn nice.
Thank you.
Les.
Thank you. Cheers, man.
Thanks for coming,
The
Les.
pleasure was mine. Man.
Well,
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
Les Bryce.
Incredible stories.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, I want to come back.
Yeah,
be
come.
back.
Yeah,
I've
come back.
we've only touched the surface.
Yeah, you'll be back.
I did all the fun stuff. I want to get to the meat and potatoes of it.
Okay, I love that. Okay,
Let's get
meat
down,
and potatoes.
Let's get deep down into the meat and potatoes of the whole thing.
I look forward to that.
All right, sounds good.
It's wicked.
All right. Peace.
That's going again.
See you
Thanks.
later.
Cheers.
Bye, guys. Cut Deanna.